Oh, are you the DPA organizer,
Yeah.
Wyatt?
Yes, I'm
Oh
Wyatt.
my gosh, I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, what a pleasure! I truly enjoy your channel.
Thank you so much.
It's truly changed the way I see the world.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very flattening.
Huh?
Let's.
So you are in Singapore.
Yes, I'm in Singapore.
Yeah, I'm in northern New Jersey, maybe 35, 40 minutes from Manhattan
Ah,
by driving.
which is quite far.
No, not really. I mean, it's we go in and out of Manhattan all the time.
Ah, okay.
You
Singapore
know,
is a small
yeah,
place.
yeah. I've been to Singapore many times actually.
Ah,
Uh, in the first time was 1996. Actually, I visited NUS, National University of Singapore. I'm a scientist by training, so
mm-hmm.
anyway, and then other times for tourist reasons.
Mm. Okay, okay. Let's see if we have anyone joining us.
Oh well. Maybe everybody's too scared to show their face. Yeah.
Not sure. Or if they, or maybe they did not see, the notification because
Oh, that's true.
I did it so
Yeah,
late.
yeah. Well, if you don't want to, oh, there's somebody else. Oh,
Yeah. So you can actually, yeah. I'm just like trying to see if how to do this sharing thing. Oh, okay. There is. It does lags a bit. Okay. This is actually the Discord channel. So there's
hmm.
actually over 400 people around over here. They are actively
Hmm.
chatting. So there's actually a lot of channels. Uh,
Yeah. Well, you know what? You have a lot of preparation to do, so I'm going to close the camera and
sure.
I'll leave it on for now. I'll get my room a little bit cleaned up and the lights better, and then you concentrate on what you need to do to prepare, and I'll come back in 10 minutes.
Okay,
Okay?
sure, sure.
All right.
See you. So this doesn't work. Mm, hmm. How do I do this? Stop presenting. Presenting. This. Share. Okay. Hmm. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, Cody. Okay, then I do not have to post this. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is the sound alright?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, no more people are going to have to invite someone from the Discord because we have Dennis. He's currently go and pack up his room. So how are you?
That's fine.
Okay. Let me say. Then let me post this. Bro, I just saw your message. So this is the open mic. we can talk about anything, or you can ask me anything, and we can also discuss about any issue that's happening around the world. We can just chit chat about it, and the video will likely to be edited. If I go to post it on YouTube, it's likely to be heavily edited. The unedited version will likely to be on Patreon.
Yeah. Yeah.
What time is
Cool.
it now for you?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Yeah.
7 p.m. So, where are you? Hmm. I wonder if anyone else is going to join.
Yeah. I think there is actually.
Yes, I think we might have to invite more people, maybe from Discord, just so that we can have a proper conversation.
Yeah.
See. Let's move this over. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not that good. I'm sorry. I'll turn on the mic. I'm back then.
I can't catch what you say. You're muffled. What do you say?
I don't just forget it.
Let's okay. Let's invite a few more people. Let's just see. Oh, Dennis is back. So I think among the patrons, we don't have many. We have like 43 patrons. So we may have to invite some people from the Discord. If we need a few more people. But do you all have anything to ask me or anything to talk about?
Uh, well, just tell us a little bit about you. Obviously you know a lot, and I'm a retired physician scientist, and I follow world geopolitics for my own interest more than anything. I'm Chinese, born in Japan, and I've lived in America for now 50 years. So I'm American, and I have a global view because I read a little Chinese. I'm totally fluent in Japanese, and I obviously read the English language papers. So that's my background. But it'd be interesting to see, just how you came to this, and your because I only know you for the last 3 months.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
does most people.
no, just 30 seconds. Just how you came to this, and what do
Okay.
you do, or what you?
So some background about Defense Politics Asia. So this is actually a website that was created with a partner. There usually used to be a partner. It's 2%, and then we created this because this friend, he posts a lot on Quora. Do you know what is Quora?
Yeah.
So Quora is this thing. This thing. So he posts a
Yeah.
lot here. So he posts so much that I was telling him that you're wasting your time, because
Mm,
ultimately everything that you post here don't belong to you. In a way, it belongs to
yeah.
Quora, and you don't really make
Mm.
money, while you're spending hours and hours creating content here. So, and then I myself was writing as well. So I was writing at let me find uh, the Yeah, let me. I was writing here. So this is my blog on Singapore politics. I randomly still updates it once in the blue moon. And I also writes a lot in the in the Facebook group that I have. So I can share it, can show you. In I have many groups. So I have this economics and global affairs group. There is actually sister group to this, which is the military warfare and geopolitics. So it's another channel. So and this economic group originally I created because of a joint venture with another person, and then he wanted to do this finance thingy, teaching people foreign FX trading, and then I did not. I was supporting, and then I created this group to kind of like just do something, and in the end, he decided not to continue with his plans, so he buy me out, and then I kick him out from this group, and then I converted into just a general chatting group about where I can post all my geopolitics or politics stuff, so that I don't post it onto my own wall because I worry that I might be very irritating to my friends. So I don't want to post it everything here. So I post all my news and global news stuff here, and then the military stuff, then I post it here. So I have these two channels, and then because I saw my friend posting so much on Quora, so I decided to just add him into this thing and work together because we all share same interest, so we just might as well just manage these groups. And then I was telling him that we should maybe put our writings together, and create a website. And then we discussed this for 1 year, and half a year through, we decided that yes, we're going to do this, but we didn't have a name. And then we took another half a year to decide on the name, and then we came out with Defense Politics Asia, and it was meant to be a think tank. So basically, both of us are sharing our opinions, and also people that we invite to write. So it's purely a writing thing. We don't really do YouTube videos. We attempted to do a podcast, but it did not. We only did only one. And then because he is supposed to be the chief editor, so I'm supposed to be the managing editor. So by right, he should be the one heading the everything. There, I'm the one supporting him because I feel that he's spending so much time writing and all these things. So I wanted to support him and maybe make a career of it, because career-wise, he's not really here or there. And I myself is doing business. I'm doing design, graphic design, branding, web design. So, but he was not here, not there. So I thought that maybe this can become a career for him. So we decided on the name Defense Politics Asia. Seems to rhymes and covers what we want to talk about. And then we started. The website is originally white color. So after that, we have a fallout around now it's 2022, so late 2020. So we have a fallout, something to do with Trump, because I actually support Trump, but I'm very neutral in the sense that I actually very objective. For example, when Trump was disputing the elections, when the election was not when Biden is still not sworn in, there is a dispute about the vote counts and everything. So I had always been trying to tell people that the election is not over until the whole legal process is all gone through, and then Trump have totally no way to come back, then the election is over. So I was arguing all this inside the Facebook group, and I made a lot. I'm basically one against many. Many people is just fighting against me. They say no, Trump has already lost and stuff like this. And eventually, disappointingly for me, Trump lost, and then now we are in a more dangerous world, because Trump is he's not into war, so he would have probably made deals with Russia to make sure that Ukraine war wouldn't have started. So unfortunately, that's the world we inherit now. And
Mm.
so, and then that was one of the reasons. So that a lot of tension because my partner then, he was rather anti-Trump. So he probably is because of the media diet that he takes. He read a lot about all this, anti-Trump stuff, and how Trump is the idiot or a joke, this kind of thing. But I don't read this kind of thing. I actually watch the press conferences. Like
Mm.
I actually watch at least one full press conference from the White House every week, at least once. So when I finish a press conference, I actually know, okay, interesting. Then after that, you read the headlines, like, what, what the hell are they writing about? And then the important
Yeah,
stuff is missed. You
right.
see?
This is yeah, because everybody has an angle and an audience to target. I mean, speaking for British American media, I mean, it's not like every media basically has its targeted audience or its fans, and they're not necessarily, in fact, they're not there to inform, in a balanced way. That's not their job.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see it as their job. Their job is to massage the message so that something gets through, but it is only from that angle. I mean, this is, uh, any event, as simple as, somebody, a new ship is launched in China, which is a simple fact. That same, a ship going into the ocean, you know, reported in whatever global times will be completely different from what you would read in Washington Post or New York Times or MSNBC versus Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and unfortunately, that has driven at least America to such an extreme that we have communities that can no longer see anything in a common light,
Yes.
because if this is a red light traffic light, they'll say, well, I'm supposed to stop, which is the simple legal issue. But then somebody could say, well, who's controlling the red light? I mean, who's funding the police department? Well, maybe they saw a black man in a white community, so now the red light is longer. I mean, they just make it up. And this is where we stand, unfortunately, in virtually everything, which is why, I read, New York Times, Washington Post, The Guardian, uh, CGTN, Asahi, Die Welt, I mean, everything, RT, just to say, what are they saying? I don't believe any of them in terms of 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like your channel and a few others, and in fact, I spend more time with yours because it's most detailed, so that I can actually say, okay, where is Liman? What's the distance from Liman to Kramatorsk?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean? And then for me, because I'm not a detail, in terms of, I don't have the time nor the background of the long, short term, is where is this going? And okay, so if Donbass falls, just going back to the nitty gritty, and I guess Mr. Cody or Miss Cody is listening. If Donbass falls, Crimea is sort of gone for now anyway, and Kherson and most of Zaporozhye are now certainly occupied. Oh, by the way, I've been to Ukraine 4 times personally, uh, so I have a feel for the people as a tourist. Um, um, you know, the narrative of um, the West, the Europe and America on one side saying, well, under no circumstances are we going to give up anything. And we know what Putin probably wants minimally. I mean, in terms of why he bothered to start this. And there's such a diametric opposite. And realistically speaking, what Henry Kissinger said, which is the obvious, which is that you are not going to, Putin is under Russia will under no circumstances will they be happy, content with returning to status post ante February 24th. I mean, it makes absolutely zero sense. They don't have to. And the minimum they're going to take is Donbass, Crimea, Kherson, most of Zaporozhye. They already have it. Never mind where they're going next. And yet the West, particularly the Baltic states, Poland, are and Britain and U.S. are so gung ho, so ridiculous, in my opinion, unrealistic. Never mind whether they're right or wrong, because I'm not here to make judgment. The real issue is, what is von der Leyen or Joseph Borrell or Charles Michel thinking? I mean, where's the money going to come from? Where's the manpower going to come from? And well, I guess we lost Mr. Cody. I'm talking too much.
It's okay.
Anyway, sorry, I don't want to waste your time because it's already, probably midnight your time.
Oh, no
So,
problem.
if you want to,
Because
if you want to go to bed, I'm,
I really plan to talk to another 45 minutes. I have no problem.
okay.
Because I live
So-
in Europe time or American time. I sleep in the day.
So, I mean, it's wonderful for me to be able to talk to you. I mean, it's one-on-one, believe it or not. But my concern is, where is this going to go?
Correct.
I mean, how do you see it?
I actually I view this exactly the same as you. Because for me, my views has been evolving throughout the entire war. So I start off the war when because I actually, before I wasn't really that focused on YouTube, because the videos that I was creating was very edited. So it takes a lot of time to edit a video, and it's just not very efficient. And I don't have an audience. I only have 20 subs when I start off the war. So with 20 subs,
I was number 260. When I subscribed, I was actually number 260. About.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So no,
now
when
I have 20
that early, right? No, when I only 20 subs, you don't feel the kind of it's not worth that time to build the content, which is why I only do the writing. I wrote and I warned against complacency from the West to and not to take Russia seriously, because from my point of view, Russia is very serious about this, and they're definitely going to march into Donbass for sure. And then in the end, they did march into Donbass, and then I was thinking, they might actually follow what they have done in Georgia, where they actually fought from the states that they want to liberate out to force a surrender. What I did not consider was that how strong what the fortification was, and that the Russians have made a decision that they are not going to be able to break through that fortification without a flanking movement from behind. And that is my misappreciation of the situation. So even the Ukrainians don't believe that the Russians will invade directly from Russia. So as a result, the Ukrainians were ill prepared for the invasion in the beginning, which is why the Russians can rush all the way to Kiev. And from Crimea, there was hardly any Ukrainian forces in the south, which is why they can rush.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even paying attention to that the forces will come in from Crimea towards Kherson very quickly. In fact, I wasn't even paying attention until all of a sudden, they're moving very fast. Of course, the issue of Mariupol is an old one. I mean, in 2014, I actually happened to have a friend who is a white Russian who was born and raised in Japan like I was. And he has distant relatives in Mariupol. And in 2014, he actually contacted me because my wife is blonde looking. He thought my wife was Ukrainian. And he said, Dennis, can you help me? Because I'm trying to help and rescue my relatives in Mariupol, get them out to America so that they can live. And I said, no, my wife is German, so even though I like Ukraine a lot, I don't really have direct contact, relatives in Ukraine. So Mariupol has been a big deal for a very long time, right? At least 7 or 8 years. So anyway, so it's. I mean, I guess but if you notice when you look on the Google map right now, you're a pro at looking at these maps and say, yeah, these are deep trenches all over multiple layers of deep. Now, obviously, this knowledge, information was available, right?
Yep.
Certainly, I don't know why the Russians wouldn't know that. I mean, they must have known it.
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm quite sure they know. I'm sure they have their own satellites. Probably not as sharp as the Americans one.
Yeah.
But they have. So which is why they they decided to go from the north. So so in my report, in my coverage, I call it as 5 different fronts: Kharkiv, Kiev, and Crimea. And then of course we have Donbass, and then Sumy. So they actually have 5. If you count Luhansk and Donetsk separately, there's 6. So
right.
and it was clear that they needed the other fronts because Luhansk and Donetsk wasn't having a lot of progress in the beginning, and Luhansk suddenly broke. The front line suddenly broke, and then Luhansk did this massive loop, and then they managed to capture like more than half in a very, very short time, and the entire defense collapsed for the Ukrainians. So maybe that was because they are too near to the Russian border. I'm not sure. And then and then I was surprised also. I was not say surprised. I would say what I observed is that their target was Mariupol. Like this, like the number 1 target, which is why they they rush all the way through Berdyansk, through the coast all the way and encircled Mariupol as soon as possible. And then while they surround that, then they actually push the front line away from Mariupol. So they actually move northward while they have another force blockading the entire city before they actually attack the city proper. Then they actually push all the way. So they push the border far away so that the Ukrainians cannot do anything about it. And recently I also, because of this video that I made about the OSCE comment about the nuclear stockpile, then
you mean
plutonium
IAEA?
You
mean IAEA?
Sorry, not OSCE.
Right. Yeah.
IAEA. So they left. There's supposedly a lot of plutonium and
30,000 kilograms.
And enriched uranium. So then some people are commenting this and that, and then it dawns to me that maybe one of the first mission, or one of the primary missions in the beginning, was also to reach all these nuclear power plants to capture any evidence of nuclear weapons, any documentations or research on nuclear weapons. I think that was the reason, and this is also the reason why they were rushing, to Voznesensk to try, and then they actually sacrificed a lot of soldiers there. So hi, William.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Wyatt.
Hello. So that's Dennis. His name is there.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, I wanted to get in on the first live stream because I knew there wouldn't be many people on the first one, and probably in a month or so, it's going to be overwhelmed with people.
Perhaps.
So you got to get in early on anything. So
yeah. So welcome to the stream. So sorry for the very late notification because I'm very bad at keeping schedule to online meetings. I tend to forget about them.
Yeah.
So we were actually talking about the beginning. What I was talking about. Some of the early missions. The Russians were trying to do. So we were talking about the nuclear. Because recently I posted a video about the IAEA comment on the plutonium and enriched uranium, right? So some of the comments I saw on YouTube and here and there, and I realized that maybe one of the first missions why Russia have to go for Kiev was because of Chernobyl, and then why they go for Enerhoda, the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia, and also make that massive sacrifice to rush all the way to Voznesensk. They actually have a lot of soldiers, I think, died trying to reach the power plant north of Voznesensk.
Yeah, but Voznesensk is the one north of Mykolaiv, right?
Correct.
The Russians never made it there, as far as I know.
So they reached all the way to Voznesensk. They were fighting there. They cannot get through. and then
Right,
the
right. That's
force
what I
that was
remember.
there got wiped out, and then maybe
Right.
the rest escaped, but whoever was
Right.
trying to push through, they got wiped out. And then the
Right.
Ukrainians were very happy about it. They were showing off the corpse and stuff like this, and it could be a reason because of why they are trying to trying to get any information they can get about Ukraine's potential nuclear weapons program, because Zelensky mentioned about they may need to go back to nuclear weapons just weeks before the invasion, and that could be one of the major triggers for the war. And usually for head of states, you will not say something until you actually already did something. For example, if I say I want to go back to nuclear weapons, actually I will have already researched for nuclear weapon for 2 years or 3 years. Maybe I'm very near to that, because you will not want to let your enemies know that what you're trying to do. And by the time you want to release any information, you would have already did it. Just like stealth fighters by the United States, or any kind of hypersonic weapons. Like the Russians, hypersonic weapons was already developed when they announced it. So it came as a surprise to everyone when they first announced it.
But this is a classic example of if there is 30,000 kilograms of plutonium and another 20,000 kilograms of something enriched uranium. I mean, and I don't know how many bombs you can make. It all depends on how big the bomb is.
I heard it's like 4 kgs you can make one small bomb, one small atomic bomb. So that's a lot.
Of course,
the number of dirty bombs is innumerable.
Yeah. But the issue really is now, you can imagine if this were Iran and randomly somebody found 30,000 kilograms of plutonium in Iran. I mean, it will be plastered on front page of every single Western newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Now, we hardly hear anything. In fact, I can't, which is what happens, right? Even for me, because there's no follow-up. IAEA is not making, as far as I know, a very big deal out of it, other than the Director General making some comment. It sort of disappears from the Western media spotlight. Because if it is true, it's not good. Well, somebody has to explain, and Russia certainly hasn't had the time to make that much plutonium. And I guess plutonium, you don't have to enrich it that much. But anyway, so I mean, this is where, once again, going back to this issue of the narratives of the media in terms of is extremely difficult to find out what's really going on, which is where a place like yours, DPA, becomes invaluable, because I can look at the data and with the trends of every day, not just one. If you just did a snapshot of one day, you really don't know which way the movements are. But if you've been following for 2 months, 3 months, you sort of see the dynamics of the story, where it's going. I don't. We have numerous arguments amongst our friends of what is. Never mind the Western intention, because I don't think they really know what they're doing. I mean, I'm sure this is being monitored, so I'm sure FBI might come and visit me. But the point is, as far as the Russian interest is concerned, are they going to be satisfied if their goal is, as they originally claimed, demilitarization, denazification, neutrality of Ukraine? That's basically the way I see it. Okay. In which case, if you don't have a cooperative opponent, then from a Russian point of view, you would have to force it, so that even if the Ukraine wanted to rise, they can't do it. And the extreme would be to go all the way to Odessa in 2 years, Mykolaiv, Odessa, and cut off, in which case, no matter what Ukraine did, short of NATO forces going in big time, Ukraine will be a weakened state, at least for a foreseeable future. I mean, that's one extreme. I don't think they are interested. Russia is interested in, going all the way to Lviv. This makes, to me, zero sense. I don't think they can do it anyway. Kiev, if it's a real pain in the neck, they might make it dysfunctional, even though I don't think they can occupy it for any length of time. But I mean, I don't like it. The city of Zaporozhye, which I have visited, right? I mean, that straddles. If you control Kherson downstream and Zaporozhye, the city, which straddles on the other side of the Dnieper, right? You actually control the entire lower stretch of the Dnieper River. I don't know. I mean, those are my thoughts.
So, what do you think, William?
I would say, as far as the last point he was talking about, like how far is Russia going to go, or what makes sense. What makes sense is that Russia has a set of land that they that is their minimum, and it's pretty much right where they're at, plus a little bit. There's a lot of different motivations here. Not the least of which is the 5.4 trillion, not billion, trillion cubic meters of proven gas reserves that Ukraine has. At the present rate, that's almost $4 a cubic meter is the spot price. Last time I checked, several days ago, maybe a week ago. So you're looking at $4. That's $20 trillion to be divided. The two regions, there's probably over a dozen different regions in Ukraine. The two regions are Poltava or something like that, just south of
north of Dnipro.
Poltava. Well, it's a region, and then that's just south of. I looked at the heat map of gas. It's probably not I've got a little bit to say here, so bear with me, but I think it's worth saying. 70% of all Ukraine's gas reserves are in two regions, and coincidence of all coincidences, it's the two regions where there's the most movement of troops, which is Kharkiv and just south of that, Poltava, which is also where Russia's focused on. But you're looking at trillions of dollars, more money than can provide for this conflict for either side for a long time. And that doesn't include all of the other natural resources that Russia has put into their possession. Now, they're commodities, so they can unload them probably, as opposed to sanctions on a country like South Africa that relied on imports and exports of their own technology. You had to have a buyer for a specific technology, very small markets, niche markets. But with commodities, you sell them to anybody, and Russia's right next to two of the biggest buyers. But what I was going to get at is logically, if I was Russia, I would take enough land, because it does look like they're doing better than obviously the Western media says they are. I would take enough land so that I have a bargaining chip, so I can trade, so I can get back into good graces, so I can start, have a reasonable, footing where you don't have as many sanctions. In 20 years, this is going to the world and the Russian people and everybody. Russian people like this war, but in 20 years, people are going to look quite a bit differently on Russia and stuff than they do today. I think my thoughts are that this is partially to contain China. So
wait, just a minute.
That's my
just a minute.
Conspiracy theory.
For Russia to contain China?
Yeah, Dennis, where are you broadcasting from, if I may ask?
I'm
United
sorry.
States?
I am in New Jersey, 40 minutes out of Manhattan.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you from, William?
Yeah. Detroit area. Well, right now I'm
Detroit.
in Detroit. I've traveled all over the United States a lot, and I spent 6 months in Brooklyn and all over Florida, everywhere you could think of. I worked, did just about everything. But I was a professional gambler for years. But
Whoa.
anyways, it's but. Yeah. So, what was your question, Dennis? I'm sorry. To contain China. Right?
I just wanted to clarify your statement that
Yeah.
part of the reason that Russia, let's assume that we accept your hypothesis,
Sure.
that Russia is one of the many reasons that Russia may be interested in this entire operation was of the enormous gas reserve in the Kharkiv and Poltava area.
It's a
And okay, but that's fine. So, but the statement that sort of put a red light on me, which was not because it was not expected, was that part of the background information or intention is for Russia to put a check on that on China, which
not Russia. Not Russia to put a check on China.
Oh,
but if you accept the premise that the U.S. essentially caused Russia to go into Ukraine for various reasons, not the least of which is we could have simply gave them the assurances before they went in. We could have cut a deal.
Yeah.
That's the understanding.
You guys just need to say one word, They say we will never accept Ukraine, and Russia will have no more reasons.
No, they would have just said Minsk 2. I mean, to make it simple, there's Minsk 2 as a starter, then this war would not have taken place, at least at this time. That at least among this group of people, it's probably obvious. But anyway, all right. Well, I don't want to belabor the point. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Well, no, it's okay. It would be a conspiracy theory and controversial, but an exercise, a thought exercise to think that the United States' main goal, if you I got a lot going on in my mind. My father was a key scientist that was involved in the Vietnam War, and he was in meetings with the Secretary of Defense and even the presidents plural. But so he gave me some. He was very secretive, but he gave me some understanding of how and why we might have gotten involved in the Vietnam War, and how in the end it benefited us, which is totally counter to what conventional thinking is everywhere. So, but it becomes a little obtuse, and so you have to just look at the raw facts. If our goal is to contain China,
if U.S.
main goal is
U.S. goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just.
To
be understood what I say.
Because we were talking about from
here,
the.
No.
Yeah.
No, not us as a group here. I don't know you guys. That's why.
Look. I'm American.
I'm contracts with the CCP, right?
No. Okay. I'm American. Okay, I'm not born, but I'm pure American. So, the issue is we've been talking a lot about from Putin's point of view, what does he want? That's why it was not clear. But
Putin, Putin has made it clear, as all Russians have made it clear, as Mearsheimer and Cohen have made it clear. You know who Stephen Cohen is, or Stephen or Mearsheimer? Yeah, Stephen Cohen's the professor emeritus in Russian studies at NYU and Princeton.
He passed away.
About a year ago or so. Yeah. Recently, but they were very articulate for many years, and as Bill Burns, this current CIA guy. Now I'm saying a lot of things I'm sure many of you guys have heard before. But Bill Burns, the current CIA director, said in his WikiLeaks memo, "Niet means niet." He outlined that no means no, that there's a red line, and even Putin's most liberal critics acknowledge that in Russia, his most liberal critics in Russia acknowledge, this is many, many years ago, acknowledged that bringing Ukraine and Georgia into NATO would be the red line. So that's where Cohen and Mearsheimer come up with the idea, and others, including me, come up with the idea that we forced them into it. We were pushing them into it. So the question is, why do we want to do that? My understanding is that the form in which I got a background in the Army, so I know a lot of the weapons that they're putting in. My understanding with the math that goes on is, and I stated this months ago, I said, Ukraine can't win unless the United States, which is driving all this, changed everything. Changed the type of weapons that they were sending. You can't win. This is all a holding action. And I said, you know what I think where these weapons are going? I think they're going to Odessa and Kharkiv, where they want to draw a line. And they already have determined, this is a month ago I was saying this, they've already determined that Donbass is done, is finished, and they're just kind of holding on to keep their fighters in the fight and to keep the weapons coming. And they may have to do a deal eventually, and hopefully Russia's going to grab the land that they need to act as a bargaining chip if I was them. So the question is, if we knew this, and I'm sure the United States military and intelligence services knew that Ukraine can't win. If they understood this, then they were sacrificing Ukraine. They were cynical about the whole support for Ukraine. Which, if you read I started to look over the two State Department. Now in Britain, it's called the Home Office. There's two reports done. One was done by the British Home Office. Is that right? Home Office is the Secretary of State. Anyways,
No,
and then the
no,
Secretary of State.
The Foreign Office. The Foreign Office.
Foreign Office. Yeah. Home Office didn't sound right. Yeah, Foreign Office. So the Foreign Office made a report. The Secretary of State paid, or a Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of State in the United States paid several university professors to write a report on Ukraine organized crime. And Ukraine was known as the worst scourge of Europe. Europe would love to see Ukraine destroyed.
Wait. Okay, well, just a minute. Okay, I want to get back to, if you don't mind, because we all have limited time. Okay,
I'm prepared.
Okay, so let's just get a few things, because I think we all agree on some basis, and then we can diverge onto places where we disagree. Okay, so to recapitulate, right? So in 2008, with the June 2008 Budapest Memorandum, which sort of implied that George W. Bush was willing to accept Georgia potentially into NATO. And that's when Mikhail Saakashvili, who I have met personally on 2 occasions, the Georgian president, got carried away thinking he had the carte blanche, and on the opening night of the Beijing Olympics barged in. And then we know from the OSCE report that it wasn't Russia that started the war, but then Russia used the occasion to go into South Ossetia and take over Abkhazia, and then basically Georgia lost, right? So then that was
Yeah.
that was a clear warning.
That was the red.
And
That was the red line. There was no natural
Right.
resources that Russia was going after, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got
well,
the financial
right.
motivation out of the way.
Right. And then they decided, the things slowed down a little bit. But then people like Victoria Nuland and others were starting to, work in the background. And then, Yanukovych, who was in many ways not a great president, was mishandling, Ukraine, but things were stable. But then they had this, basically a coup d'etat. And the rest is history as we all know it. And so from the Russian, getting back so that I want to know what we agree and what we don't agree. Okay. So from the U.S. point of view, I totally agree with William that yes, and they have said this many times very clearly, that China in the long run is the biggest threat to our way of life and thinking. They don't hide that. Okay, and this is the truth because China thinks it's a better model. I mean, that's the way they think. Okay, now, given that, and the fact that the U.S. and the West were dumping on China so much, and now they're dumping on Russia, they decided, Xi Jinping and Putin decided, okay, we'll join hands, not an alliance, but better than alliance. This happened, late last year, and at which point, I think Putin basically felt comfortable, at least that the Eastern Front is, the Siberian Front is no problem. And from a China's point of view, they want to be as neutral as possible, at least on surface. Because as you know, in this whole sanctions war against Russia, right, China, India, surprisingly, is completely neutral. South Africa, Brazil, Indonesia, of course, Iran and all the others. I mean, essentially, except for the EU and West, China, a little bit of South Korea, everybody else is saying, we don't want to meddle with this. Fundamentally, this was to me very surprising because if you buy the West's narrative, this is an arbitrary. The story by the West is this is an arbitrary, crazy invasion by Putin into a foreign sovereign territory. This is a narrative, and the rest of the world, 150 countries, are saying, well, that may or may not be so, but we're not going to do anything about it. That's basically what we did. What happened? That is a huge shock, I think, to the West. The U.S., I am sure, is waking up and said, oh my gosh, we can't even convince India or Brazil, Indonesia, right? And I think this, and then from the U.S. point of view, they were very, very annoyed with the Nord Stream 2 because obviously with Nord Stream 2, Germany in particular, which absolutely needed the cheap natural gas to be competitive in manufacturing, right? U.S. did not want. The question is why? And for me, knowing sort of reviewing the past history, 77 years of history since World War II, is that U.S. wants to be the big honcho, and they need the West, meaning Europe, Western Europe, and Japan, and South Korea, but they don't want them to be too independent. And if Germany in particular was under CDU and Merkel, were quite friendly to China. They say a lot, but in reality, the economic connections have been extremely strong. So with relatively cheap, stable gas from Russia, and the biggest rising market in China, okay, it was a major threat in the long run of German-centric European Union in terms of a potential competition with U.S., especially in light of the rising China. So in this sense, Victoria Nuland won, even though I totally disagree with her approach, which is that by doing what we did, Europe is now not going to be competitive in manufacturing, okay, because they don't have cheap energy anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now China is sitting
Yeah.
pretty because they're getting gas and oil at a discount
Yes.
to Europe, and they're going to get these
Yeah.
energy not through the Straits of Malacca. Most importantly, they're going to go through
Yeah.
Siberia.
Yeah, I think
So China, yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there. That's the way
that,
I
that,
see.
that, that was my problem with all of this, actually. I will accept, ironically, some Machiavellian tactics if they end up in the long run helping the greater cause. And the greater cause is not, financial or anything like that. The greater cause is making sure that a totalitarian state isn't allowed to propagate in the future, so China and India are going to have cheap energy from Russia in the future. Russia will benefit from this financially, and other ways, possibly because of they're just going to grab a lot of Ukraine's natural resources. My understanding is that Ukraine's enormous gas reserves, and I think only Denmark. Anyways, there's only one other country in Europe that has more. It's one of the Scandinavian countries there, Norway or something like that, right? Has more natural gas. And Ukraine has enough natural gas to supply Europe. My understanding is that it was stemmed by the Russian propped up government in Ukraine over the years. They should have been developing their own pipeline to Europe and selling their gas. Instead, they just piped through Russia's. So you've got 5.5 trillion cubic meters of gas sitting under Ukraine, not utilized.
yeah, it's free
And
money.
now,
It's free money.
well, this is how we control. This is how we control
okay.
Europe.
Wait. Just
Germany did not want this. Germany did not want the war, and neither did France, because they rely on the gas from Russia. But now they're going to get it through Ukraine, and that's how we control them.
Okay, but okay, I think you're forgetting one important thing. Gas or oil underground is worthless unless it can be developed. Okay? And
are you saying it can't be developed in Ukraine?
It can be developed in Ukraine, but that requires multiple things. But the most important things in developing, there are three things. You need money, technology, and most importantly, honest and effective government. Okay, there is plenty of gas, as we know, in Sakhalin 1 and Sakhalin 2. I mean, the more, we were supposed to run out of energy, 50 years ago.
So
I'm
going to cut to the chase here. I'm going to cut to the chase here. In 2 years, in a few years, if the conflict is over in a few years, do you think that the natural gas will be developed and being pumped to Europe from Ukraine, or not? Or not because of the
zero chance? Yes. I tell you why.
Well,
point blank. Okay. If I were Russia, let's say you're 100% right, and I am Vladimir Putin. Okay.
Well,
and let's say I was. And the deep inside, that one of the many reasons for going into Ukraine and taking over the land was to develop the gas. Okay. U.S. and the West are going to.
No, I didn't say that.
Complain.
I didn't say that.
No.
All I said
They're
is
going
that
to complain. Okay, they're going to complain. They say, Putin, well, we told you, Putin is a nasty guy, just like Hitler went into Eastern Europe to grab the land and all these things. You see, this has nothing to do with the threatening of the Russian citizens, the Russian-speaking people in Donbass. All he wanted was a natural resource. That would be stupid for Putin to do this. For propaganda purpose alone, there's so much natural gas.
I don't know.
Right now. I mean, there's so much natural gas in the world, and that because look, Sakhalin 1 and 2 alone hasn't been developed. Okay, the Yamal is still not completely developed. This is all Russia. Okay, and why would anybody, if I were Russia, why would I? Yeah. Anyway.
No, their main point was not natural gas. Russia's main point was not natural gas, but trillions of dollars in resources is always a factor.
Oh,
whether
don't doubt.
or not you're going to use it this year or the next decade is immaterial. You can use it as a trading chip.
But you need customers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can
use it to trade. Russia, one of my scenarios is that Russia is going to take more resources, including the natural resources, to trade. They're going to take more land than they need or ever want. They already have more land than they need or want, but they're going to take more. My understanding, not my understanding, and not even my expectation, but one scenario is that Russia is going to take more land than they want and then make a deal. I would, if I thought that I could get away with it. And then people,
in fact,
so make a deal to get back into good graces.
In fact, in my
I'll let the others
projection,
know.
so in my own projection is that whatever front line they were looking at now, they are now trying to liberate Donbass, right? They already have Zaporizhia and they have Kherson. My belief is that after they finish Donbass, a lot of people say they will go for Odessa. I don't think so. I think they will capture the entire of Kharkiv. They might even take the rest of Zaporizhia. Or maybe Patova, like you say, or maybe Dnipro. Maybe they'll push further, and then when they trade,
Kharkiv has the goods.
Yeah, but you see, they don't want all this land. They only go to. So what happens is that when they negotiate, we say we have already captured all this land. So okay, we make you a deal. I'll give you Kharkiv, Dnipro, and the north of Zaporizhia. So that means they'll give back whatever they go to capture after Donbass, and then to make themselves look like they are very generous. And then Europe will take the deal. And then everything will go back to normal. They'll go back to buying Russian gas and everything. This is what I think will happen.
You really?
One scenario, for sure.
I think that is, I respectfully disagree, not because economically or materially what you say makes sense, but people have pride. I mean, you look at European behavior, every single thing they're doing is against their own interests, as you well know, right? They're screwing themselves. Okay.
Not necessarily, and I can paint a scenario that describes that if you'll give me the time later, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. So to me, okay. I find it very difficult to accept who in the West are willing to accept what you just proposed as the final, sort of negotiation, because it's face, as you know, in war and negotiation, face matters. And certainly the current cast of characters between Borrell, von der Leyen, Charles Michel, certainly Liz Truss in Britain, they're in no mood. And the Greens in Germany, okay? I mean, okay, the only way is for Germany to turn over to a CDU, SPD combined government, kick out the Greens, number one, okay? Italy rises to the occasion. UK is hopeless. And U.S., certainly not under Democratic president, okay? Even with the Republicans, let's say we extend so that in the November election, the Republicans take both of the houses. And even if we got a Republican president in 2024, it is extremely difficult on face for a new administration to come in and say, okay, well, Russia sort of won. They have all the cards. We're going to make a deal, and we're going to give half of Ukraine away. You think the American pride will take this? No way. You really?
Trump
Wow.
will do it.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay. Oh, Trump would do it?
Yeah, I think Trump will do it because Trump's position was.
Well, no, the,
Sorry, you can call it.
Well,
the way that they, yeah. Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting that we disagree on it. This is a very interesting point. You know, it's whenever we disagree, it's actually more interesting, as you know, in any discussion.
Yeah. Here's my practical. Here's my practical argument for Europe being in it at this point. Okay, Europe absolutely needs gas. Where are they going to get it? They've already determined it's not going to come from Russia. We can't supply it. We can only supply about 10% of the liquid gas for Europe, and it'd be very expensive. Who's got the gas? Our ally, the people that we've just indebted, that we've got under our thumb through Zelensky and the war effort, is Ukraine. They've got the gas. Who's got? Not only that, who's going to develop
Ukraine
it?
does
Not
not have
Ukraine.
gas.
It's our money. Now they owe us even more. So is that not enough practical reason?
No,
because Germany relies on future Ukraine gas.
No. Okay.
No.
Because
they can't supply Europe on their own, bro.
What's that?
I mean,
they can't supply Europe on their own.
Who?
Yeah,
Ukraine?
Is this Abedlhadi?
Yeah.
No, that really?
Okay.
How much?
Yeah, they can't. They can't even provide to their own citizens.
Yeah.
You're right. That's my point. We own them even more. We own them even more since they can't even supply their own citizens. They have the gas.
No,
who can build a pipeline? Europe.
No, I'm sorry,
now
William.
Ukraine
just a minute.
owns them even more.
Yeah, just a minute, William. We have to be realistic.
5.4 trillion cubic meters of gas is in Ukraine.
We have to be realistic about this. Okay. I mean, I worked on Wall Street, and I calculate numbers. Okay, I used to.
Okay, so the Trump card. Okay.
No, I'm saying.
So we're supposed to defer to you because you worked on Wall Street.
No. I'm just realistically saying that a proven reserve is not a usable. You look at Sakhalin, okay? Because I follow.
Are you saying that it's not usable?
Yes.
No. He's
that's
saying
not
that
what I read.
No, he's saying that the numbers that you have in storage in reserve is an estimate. It's not a good indication as for future projection, correct? Or something like this.
You can't use it because you know, as I said, I am Chinese, ethnic Chinese. Because my family's been in. My family has been in Japan for 150 years.
No,
okay.
The way.
So I don't just a minute. Let me because this is a very important.
Let me.
Okay.
I'm going to have to cut off.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have been following very closely because my father lives in Japan. He's 99 years old. And I have been following it before the Ukraine stuff started, East Asia politics and geopolitics extensively, including Russia and China.
Yeah.
So I have been following Sakhalin 2 pipe development very closely.
Okay.
And he dropped. Oh, I dropped. Oh no, all of us dropped. Oh no. I dropped. It's me. Oh no. I went offline. Damn it. Oh no. What happened? No. Come on, man.
You haven't been to the United
Oops.
States like Detroit. Detroit.
No, I've been,
I'm from Detroit.
been.
So,
I can't believe I dropped.
yeah.
And
Yeah. So we're talking to Abedlhadi. Anything to
Yeah, yeah.
ask? Ask.
It sounds like it's.
Hey, carry on, William.
I guess it's a delay. Yeah, it sounds like we're at it. Me and Dennis doesn't sound like we're going to agree on whether or not Ukraine
I'm
has
sorry.
the
I'm sorry.
accessible gas to supply Europe.
Mhm.
yeah, they don't.
So we
They
might
just
we'll
don't.
disagree on that. That's fine.
Okay.
But from the numbers that I looked over, and from the writing in the past regarding the accessibility, I've read some of it, and my understanding is that it's very accessible. It's just my understanding is that the reason that the gas has not been developed in Ukraine and delivered to Europe is that Russia already had the pipeline there, and it was cheap gas, and Russia was using their influence in Ukraine to prevent development of those
Okay,
gas fields. So that's just my understanding. I could be wrong.
Because
I asked a guy from asked a guy from Odessa, and he says that the gas company government, they say that they sell a bit of gas from Ukraine to from the European Union, than the local consumers. And that's what they say. I don't think they would be able to supply Europe entirely. I think that would be Russia, though.
yeah, so my understanding is that
Well, no,
Ukraine will have
I'm
no reason to develop their own gas because they are already getting cheap gas from Russia. Because to develop the gas facilities, it is extremely expensive. So, and then of course, Ukraine is very corrupted, controlled by oligarchs. So of course they already have made deals with the Russians, and not to mention on top of that, they are getting a commission for every cubic meter of gas transported to Europe. So it's literally free money. Gazprom builds all the pipeline. They don't really have to build anything. They basically just free money all the way, which is why I think the reason why the gas is not developed at all at the first place. William, are you there? Oh, yeah, he seems to be around. His video.
Well, anyway, I've talked enough, so I will let you guys speak up.
But
No,
thank you, Dennis.
seriously. I want to listen. I want to learn.
Because we have different views. So which is why I like the open mic thing, because personally, I feel that I'm just a normal person. I just happen to spend stupid amount of time updating the map, and I'm doing the videos to share to everyone. And so we know especially when I look at the comments in the YouTube channels, then I do feel that there is a lot of audiences that have very good insights, information and knowledge that I don't have. I'm only one person. For example, I'm totally unable to keep up with any geopolitics or things that are happening around the world, purely because I'm spending so much time on the Ukraine war. For example, it's very hard for me to come up with news of things that's happening all around the world, because the Ukraine war itself takes me 5 hours a day on average, and that's just simply scrolling through Telegram and Twitter to look for all the information that I can plot onto the map. So so that's why I wanted to do this open mic thing, because I believe that people from all different part of the world will be able to share insights which I don't have. I'm just a normal person. And not to mention, in Singapore, despite it seems like I'm very neutral and I don't really take sides, or I'm not really especially pro West or not especially pro Russian. My government is actually pro West, and the majority of Singaporeans are pro West, not because they are pro West by nature, but it's because the media diet that we have is usually very the coastal American kind of diet. Washington Post, not Washington Post, Washington Times, New York Times, CNBC. Some people watch CNN for some reasons. so even our politicians are brainwashed. So for example, my prime minister, in 2016 when Trump was running against Clinton, right? Hillary Clinton. My prime minister came out and said he do not believe that Trump will become president. And that was 1 month before the election result. And then I was like, oh my freaking God, why did he say that? And then end up Trump won. Which is why for the entire Trump term, Singapore do not have an American ambassador in Singapore. So that is a direct result of the media diet. The propaganda or the misinformation or the mainstream media kind of influence, right, from the USA is ridiculously powerful. Which is also the reason why I started DPA, because during the Obama times, I realized that I have to depend on RT, Russia Today, to find out what is happening in USA. Because things that happening in USA, when you just reading, the typical Washington Times news, I can't really catch what's happening. When I watching, people like Tim Pool, or I'm not sure if Tim Pool is around then, I'm watching online, on the odd media, I realized that things is so different from Washington Post and all these things. Then I started watching RT, and then RT being RT, they want to dig out all the dirt, but then they report, and everything you can fact check them is all 100% true. That's the beauty of Russia Today. They have propaganda that is 100% factual, which is why I have a certain respect for RT, and I have a huge problem with Obama because they screw up my region. Because they mishandled China. They allowed China to fill up all these islands in South China Sea. So and then in this kind of environment, that's why DPA was born. Because I realized that I need to cover a wider picture to try to give people a different perspective that we might.
What did you say about the South? What did you say? Sorry to interrupt you. What did you say about the South China Sea?
So
regarding
South China Sea, they have all these islands by where the Chinese built military base, right?
Yes, yeah.
Those islands are actually very small. They are actually not big enough to build any military base. So what the Chinese did was that they reclaimed land. They reclaimed the islands. They dug up the sand from under the sea, and dump it on top, and they built an island.
Yeah.
So the thing is, South China Sea by right is international water. By right. So the Americans have the Navy. They are the only one that can confront China on that. And Obama did not send the Navy to stop. Imagine you sent a destroyer, and you go straight in between the island and those Chinese vessels, and you dare the Chinese to not back away. The Chinese will have to back away because the Chinese cannot afford to fight the US Navy during those days, during Obama days.
Well, hold on here. You're saying that the United States should start a military conflict over some little islands in the Spratly Islands in South China Sea?
So the US actually have the entire influence over Southeast Asia. Most of it, they have tremendous influence, and that we are in a way we are under the protection of the United States. When Obama did not stop the reclamation of the islands, what happened is that they now created a permanent problem, because you can't erase the island now. Permanent problem in the middle of Southeast Asia, and that's the problem now that we inherit, and we cannot get rid of it because nobody can beat China, and nobody can warn off China except for USA at that time. But now that they have already built the infrastructure, you can't get rid of them anymore. It's permanent problem now.
Or you could just say we're going to let them build, and but we're always going to assert that they don't have that land, which means that the conflict. I mean, it's not the United States' place to start to start blasting away at the,
No, not blast
at the
away.
rudders of ships that are dredging new land in for whatever purpose. The real value of those islands is the 200-mile radius of resources that international law gives them, right? It's the same thing with the Falklands. The Falkland Islands are all about the natural resources. You got in the Falklands a 200-mile radius, which is the international law. You have resource rights over that. That is the same square kilometers, same acreage, same area of all of England, and you've got two of them. So Falklands it's clear why they were fighting over that. It's for oil, gas, gold. Okay, it's the same thing with the Spratlys. They want those resources. That's
I believe differently.
China wants the resources.
So
I did.
What's that?
So I disagree because the Chinese know that they can't develop it. Because nobody will recognize it. So the Chinese do know that they can't develop it until maybe 100, 200 years later, when they actually dominate the entire region, or when USA decided to collapse on its own. They are there for for diplomatic reasons. They put a lot of pressure on the surrounding countries just by being there. Then secondly is militarily.
Who says China isn't already developing it?
Sorry?
How do you know they're not digging into the ground right now?
I don't know. I only read the news.
Because it's not. No, because it's not.
Look,
I mean,
I would be fired. I would fire. If I was Xi Jinping, I would fire the guy in charge of the Spratly Islands if he had not already tested the ground for gas and oil.
Yeah.
I'm
sure they are.
No. There are different issues here. Okay, the Spratly Islands and the Paracel Islands, the specific atolls. These are not really even islands. They're little, atolls. The natural resources are not necessarily under the islands. It's the area,
right?
The general area that we're talking. The Vietnam, China, all of these have been developing oil fields, exploratory oil fields. This has been going on for a long, long time. What is new under Xi Jinping are these 9 dotted lines and all this claiming of the general area, as far as I'm concerned.
So it's not new. It's actually under not ROC, which is Taiwan, Republic of China. They are the one that drew the lines. But theirs is 13 lines. So the Chinese,
but that's a long time ago.
But because the PRC, the communists, inherited everything. So they say that they are the successor to ROC. So they simplify into 9 dash. What is significant is that this is the first time, not now, like many years ago, now since 2016 or 2015, is the first time that the Chinese actually took action to control these islands that they claimed. Because previously they only talked about it, but they never really do anything about it.
But I think where I disagree a little bit is the intention. To me, I look at bigger picture because that's why DPA is so useful. Because for me, because your emphasis is a little different because you look at not minutia, but the granularity that allows me to see the bigger picture. Okay, here in analyzing East Asia and Southeast Asia, I look at big trends, meaning the number one big trend is demographics. Okay, the first thing I look at is the economic trends, which can change because economy goes up and down. But the number of people that are going to be alive 60 years from now in Japan is known, right? I know that year 2100, the population of Japan is going to go down from 125.5 million today to about 70 million. This is a given, short of huge immigration. The same thing is going to happen to Taiwan.
Similar thing in China.
Yes. But similar things are going to happen in Taiwan, Singapore. All these countries that are highly developed are going to shrivel in terms of number of people. China will go down from approximately 1.4 billion to 930 million people, with the demographic shift towards obviously to the older people. Okay, these are known facts. We already know. However, we already also know that the demographics in, even though it's rapidly changing in Vietnam, the demographics in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia especially, okay, and Thailand. Okay, this is well known. The 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 Chinese ASEAN trade is already surpasses China, US, China, European trade already. Okay, so when you see this in this fashion, the way I look at it, okay, and you also look at the demographics of Africa, which I also do, okay, looking at the demographics of DRC, Nigeria, and a couple other countries, okay, China knows that, number one, they don't want to get into a hot war because that doesn't help them. That has never helped them. Number two, all they care is trade for now, because trade is power. And that has been amply shown. Every day I see evidence of, even, Wang Yi visiting Solomon Islands and the other, whatever, 6 or 7 South Pacific islands. What is driving is none of these people are interested in war. It doesn't help them. China is not interested in military bases per se in war. What they are interested, however, is to threaten Australia, basically, without saying it, by essentially having fantastic relationship with South Pacific Islands. And my prediction, even though Indonesia doesn't like to align itself strongly with anybody, China is going to try extremely hard economically to become very friendly with Indonesia, because that is a country of 280 million people, not that developed. And that island chain essentially goes all the way from way out to the west of Singapore, all the way to essentially east of Australia. If China gets control of Indonesia in terms of alliance, not military alliance, but being friendly, Australia is done. A country of 25 million, whatever number of million people, against country of 300 million people that's rising, forget it. I mean, it's gone. And that, I think, is the way, at least the way I see. And then I follow Chinese media, at least the official announcements, every single day, carefully, like Wyatt looks at details. I look at what they write and say, what are they really, really saying? And I see that this, little islands are more symbolic, and saying to the U.S. and to the Philippines especially, saying, hey, look, this is 8,000 miles away from where you guys are, and this is sort of our backyard. And I think that's the level of my interpretation. It's a long strategy, not war related. That's the way I see it. Anyway. And countries like Singapore, is too small. And Singapore really wants to become essentially like a Switzerland. It already is, right? You're friendly to everybody, militarily insignificant. I mean, you have in fact, I have a young woman who just joined the Department of Defense in Singapore. It's a friend of my son. But the point is that Singapore cannot alienate China, because China can give you a real hard time.
Yep. In fact, from my point of view, China is actively trying to destroy Singapore. It's just that they are caught in between because we are too friendly to them. So even when China was doing very aggressive, hostile actions towards Singapore, we continues to be really, really friendly to them, and that makes it really hard on them to destroy Singapore. And that's how I look at it. But
Wait, yeah. I have a question. Is
yes,
is Singapore even neutral? I think it is.
uh,
Because it's small. I
It's
think it is.
pro-West
we are
overall.
supposed to be neutral, supposed to be, but
But you're pro-West.
Oh,
yeah, but we are actually
Overall.
leaning west. So Singapore is supposed to lean west. We are not pro-west, but we're supposed to lean west. But 3 months ago, when Singapore unilaterally together with USA sanctioned Russia for out of the blue, that surprised everybody. In fact, it shocked Russia. Russia have never expected Singapore to be pro-West to the extent of sanctioning Russia, because we are so far away.
I mean, yeah, I mean Switzerland also sanctioned Russia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is that's why I was thinking that there might be something under the table that
Well-
happened. Sorry, William.
Of course. I mean, how much business does Singapore do with Russia? How much business do they do with the United States?
Yeah. So there must be certain threats that was being imposed on Singapore, but I think so when Singapore announced that we have sanctioned Russia, and then the government is trying really hard to create a narrative to justify this action, the population in Singapore is really unhappy about the sanctioning of Russia. So it is across the board that the Muslims are saying that no, you are being the government is being hypocritical, because when America invaded Iraq, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, we did nothing. So the Muslim population is very unhappy. So they are in line with the Middle Easterns, because they're all Muslims. And then the Chinese, the general public, the Indians and Chinese, where we are not so religiously, tainted by this ideology, we are saying that no, it's none of our business. Why are you, interfering into something so far away? Why are you, offending a superpower? And that is my point of view as well. And what's worse is that from my point of view, because I do follow geopolitics, I see Russia as a rising power. And as we go down, like what Danny said about demographic, about how things are going to turn out, like the shift in balance in the center of the world, you move towards Asia, and the West, Europe is going to be weaker and weaker, and they are having so much problem in Europe themselves. Russia will start to have a heavier and heavier weight and importance in this world. And if Singapore is wary about China, which we are very wary about China, we need Russia to be on our side, because Russia is the other partner that, other than United States, that can control or at least pin back China. But when we sanction Russia, we are putting ourselves as a target, firstly, in a war. Second is that we are also helping the West, pushing Russia towards China. And that is actually bad for our own geopolitical needs, because we need China to continue to feel endangered, always feel threatened that in the war situation, Russia may invade from the north. We want that so that China will not dare to go into a major war for Taiwan, for example. And that would be important. But when you push them so close together, Russia will just step aside. Let China do whatever they want, just like what China is doing for Russia now for Ukraine. This is already a fact now. This is.
I mean,
I agree.
Russia economy does not stand to be a superpower, and that's their only problem.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you guys just said. You had a few points about Russia, and that's my problem with this whole thing with pushing Russia into this war to begin with. It just puts them in China's pocket.
Yes.
It's not a good thing. I was against it. I was for negotiating with Russia before it ever got to this stage.
And so in Singapore, so what happens?
And then the other thing is, Abedlhadi. I agree with Abedlhadi. Russia has a GDP of Italy's, and it's shrinking. Their population is going to be almost nothing. It's going to go down it's going to go way down. They're aging out. And so they're really in a tough situation, and they're really just going to shrink. I mean, it's their GDP is going to shrink. That dictates their military power. They're not going to be in no position to project their power, But I agree that it was foolish of us to force Russia into Ukraine. So, I don't know why we did it.
So what happened in Singapore was that after the vote to condemn Russia, and then Singapore sanctioned Russia, then we had this vote to knock Russia out of the Human Rights Council, right? Singapore abstained, and that is significant, you see, because this is a harmless vote. We could have just voted in favor and continue to pro-West, but Singapore backtracked. And for me, this is a major sign that the government of Singapore have recognized the mistake, because before that vote, Russia just sent a Kinzhal, their first Kinzhal, just a days before that, and then that also shows that, and then the rubles was starting to rebound, and I think, if I'm not wrong, during those days, so the Singapore government immediately realized that, oh no, this entire sanction thing is not working, very quickly, and they start to realize that Russia is going to be here to stay, and the West might collapse. Europe, at least United States, will not collapse, but Europe is going to collapse on its own, on itself, and America is just sucking the blood out of Europe.
Unless they get Ukrainian gas.
But they're not going to get it, right? They're never going to get it unless NATO forces march into Ukraine to help. They're not going to, even if you give them the best weapons you can give to the Ukrainians, they're not going to have enough time to train. Any weapons that arrive in Ukraine get destroyed almost immediately. At least half of them, I would think. So it's in the situation where there's not a lot the West can do for Ukraine, unless you send your own troops in. This is my point of view, because from the trend of the war is that Ukraine is falling apart, from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I listen to your podcast every day.
Yay!
Because you're the only one who really goes over everything. That's why I want to support you. That's why we got 3 people here. You had a maximum of 5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah, we definitely have to put a limit.
I think that if you keep at it, hopefully you'll eventually be found.
Yeah. So this open mic,
you'll be discovered. That's why I wanted to get in early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The open mic, I wanted to keep it to maybe 4 or 5 people, so that it's easier to have a deeper discussion. But because this was the first session, so I was like, just open it up. But I'm not sure how to go ahead. I will try and see how it goes. Maybe we'll have a different regions.
Yeah, perhaps one is to restrict the topic. I mean, in other words, today we discussed absolutely everything, right? If you have a theme, a topic of, what are the thoughts on how is this going to end? Let's focus on that. Or what was the motivation of Russia doing this?
But that would defeat the purpose of open mic, because it's open.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to let people to say anything they want to say. Of course, it's not random, but because there might be narrative or things that happen that I'm not aware of. Which is why I don't want to set a topic per se, and I believe that the people will support me, especially the patrons. They are people that really know things.
Yeah, it was good. It was good having an open thing.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you, even though we disagree on not many things, but on this issue of, as I said, the Ukrainian gas, I just think, in terms of, maybe it's very important in the very, very long run, but in the spectrum of things going on now and the issues that are pushing the scenario, I think it's not the main thing. And that's all I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said,
it doesn't have to be the main thing. It's just a factor.
Yeah, but as you know, in world history, I'm a student of modern history. I guess the last 300 years, all over the world. It's to a great extent, events follow people's personality, of the people's, you know, what they are like. So to understand, I started following Vladimir Putin from, I guess, the Christmas Day 1999, at the height of the Grozny Chechnya this conflict. That's when I really started following, when Yeltsin was getting sick and all that. So I've been following Putin, not every day, but to a great extent, on how he formulates his plans and conflict. So I think I have a reasonable understanding.
I got a question.
How he thinks. Yeah. What is your question?
Do you consider overall? Do you consider Putin a patriot? I know it's a generalization.
A Russian patriot?
Who else? What else country? Yes, Russian patriot.
No, in contrast to Soviet patriot. Because some people, my friends, good friends, especially in Europe, think that, well, Putin is crazy. All he's obsessed is to recreate the Soviet Union. I even have friends in Germany, very good friends, my wife's relatives, who are completely reasonable in most issues. They're saying to me that they think that if Putin can have it, he will take back East Germany. And they are serious. I'm not making this up. Okay, so when you say patriot, I think of course he's a patriot, a Russian patriot, in a sense that I think that
patriot.
It goes back to the 8 letters that Putin wrote to European leaders when in the West, when he became the president. Okay, he wrote a long letter, set of 8 letters, which I read very, very carefully in 1999 or December 2000, where he said, now I'm in charge. Russia has been historically, in modern times, for the last 500 years, since Moscow rose, has been a European country, even though it is a European Asian country. Our heart's history and soul is European. These are his words. We want to be part of Europe, and we want to be part of the West. We want to be treated as equal. We don't want war. We want open cultural exchange, economic exchange. We open our arms. At least this is what he wrote.
Yeah.
And the West completely said, screw you. We don't trust you, blah, blah, blah. And over the last 20 years, for all kinds of reasons, he started, because there was no alternative, he started moving really, of course, at that time, China wasn't that strong anyway. It wasn't significant, So I see this trend towards going back out of necessity. And then he has a very strong historical context, as you well know, as the agreement, not of the Potsdam, but because of the Yalta Agreement, right? Stalin demanded never again, saying that I will not let Germany attack motherland Russia again. We are going to unilaterally demand moving the western border of the Soviet Union 200 miles west, so that what is now Ukraine, Lviv and all that, which used to be actually Poland, right, shifted 200 miles. And Putin, in the back of his mind, specifically has this in mind. It's very, very clear if you read what he says, that what he means by a neutral territory, he is thinking of no land threat from the West, going back to what Stalin demanded. And he thinks that the West is encroaching, essentially taking back what Putin won after sacrificing 27 million soldiers or whatever, ungodly number in World War II. That, I think, is his sort of roots of thinking. In that sense, I think he's a very old Russian Stalin legacy patriot. Right? That's my understanding. And it explains a lot of what he says. He does not
That's interesting. Yeah, it's food for thought.
He doesn't want to be the Russian leader who, after the Second World War and this enormous people sacrifice that they did, right? That he's going to be known as the guy who let Russian defense on the western border weaken. I think is at the core of his, if you want to call it, paranoia. That is what he's fearful of that. If anyway, that's
okay.
The way
that's pretty good. That's interesting. I got a question before I forget. I got a question for Wyatt regarding the current war. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here.
Wyatt?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. I got a question for you. First, for sure. First of all, I want to say that just like 2 days ago, Dennis Davidov, who does a map channel, and he does a pro-Ukrainian map channel. I don't know if you know who he is. He's the guy. He's a Ukrainian pilot, commercial airline pilot, who's unemployed now. You don't want to be flying in Ukraine these days, but he does a map channel, and he just said that he had information from the top military people in Ukraine. It was somehow disseminated or spoken that for every one shell, I assume they mean artillery shell, that Ukraine sends at Russians, they send 20 back. So that right there says a lot. But I guess my question to you is, do you think that in the end that Russia will take Kharkiv?
Oh, for sure. I think they'll conquer Kharkiv. That's my opinion. But not now.
Interesting.
Because Kharkiv, at this moment, the happy front is just to let the Ukrainians be happy. The focus is totally not there. They're just trapping and wasting the Ukrainian forces over there. Their focus is still Donbass. But once Donbass is liberated, oh my god, I have no freaking idea how far Putin want to go. Because if they can capture the entire of Donbass, which means that the Ukrainian army is already half gone, or whatever that's left is just mostly 80% territorial army, which is pointless. They will either surrender or die instantly in any battle. So which means that the Russians can push forward as far as they want. In fact, they might even go for another incursion from the north through Sumy and through Kiev, all the way back to Kiev again, surround it again, and then say, okay, we have did it once, we have did it second time. So do you want to negotiate now? Then I believe that might be something that could happen, because if the Russians can rush to Kiev in the first time round when the Ukrainian army is still intact, what makes them able to stop the Russian army the second time when their army is smashed? So there is no win for Ukraine. I have no idea what they are trying to do now, and I really not sure how far Russia wants to go. That is for honest, because I already misjudged Russia for a number of things, especially the way how they invaded. I didn't expect them to once capture the entire of Kherson and Zaporizhia, and they even changed the currency now. They're changing the currency now. They're issuing passport. They're already importing goods all the way, Russian goods from Crimea. So it's totally Russian now, the entire region now, and the Ukrainians have no means to fight through. Currently every attempt has been destroyed. So this
You're
is
talking
unexpected.
about the south region, right? Kherson and all that, right?
So I have these things that I never predicted. So I don't dare to really predict what they're going to do next. A lot of people say they're going to take Odessa, but I'm not so sure. That's my opinion. I'm not so sure, because I don't really see Russia really cherish Transnistria that much. So a lot of people say they want to link up with Transnistria.
Okay, so the reason I agree with you overall, but putting myself on the Russian side or Putin's position, right? if they don't control Odessa, which I have visited on occasion, it seems to me that it is always going to be a problem.
Because
let's say they took.
Because for me is that they need to give Ukraine something. In my opinion, to have a peace settlement, they need to give them a port to trade. But if Ukraine continue to fight this war, and they continue to play punk, try to be the asshole that they are being now, then Putin will do what he say. There might not be a Ukraine in the future. Then he will actually capture the whole of Odessa. They might actually go all the way. They will capture the entire of Mykolaiv, and I'm not sure how what. They will definitely take Dnipro. If they're gonna take Mykolaiv, they will take Dnipro. They will take Poltava. They will take Kiev. Then they'll probably
they will take Zaporozhye and if they did that way, I mean, even though it will take an enormous amount of energy and time, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Zaporozhye, I think is doable. Poltava, if you look at the map, is pretty far away. I mean, if you go as far away as Poltava, you are taking a pretty large swath of open land.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's happening to Kiev. And
so they will definitely take Kharkiv.
As I said,
Kharkiv, Dnipro.
Yeah, okay, Kharkiv is on the border, so that you can connect it. But if you take all the Kramatorsk and what's the other one? The right next door. Okay, I think it's definitely will be gone. But when William mentioned Poltava, as you may or may not know, Poltava is extremely significant historically, right? That's when the Great Northern War, and the Great Swedish Army lost for the first time against Peter the Great. So it has enormous Russian historical significance. But to me, as you know, you want contiguous land in order to protect the border in the long run. So Zaporozhye, I mean, they already have most of the Zaporozhye Oblast. Controlling the Dnieper is very important. That the Dnipropetrovsk Dam in Zaporozhye is very important. Motozhych exists there, right? And it's a major industrial city. So they're almost there. So this is not a big deal, I think. And Mykolaiv is going to be tough to get, and Odessa is going to be tough to get, but it is contiguous.
Yeah.
And it blocks the land connection to Romania, right? Because that's another NATO entry.
Yeah.
So
my point of view was that the Russians, right? If they're sick of Ukraine, okay, they're sick of Ukraine. They do not want a border with Ukraine. That's my opinion. Which is why, right? Yeah. They will take Sumy, they will take Chernihiv, but they will make them a People's Republic or something. Make them a neutral state of sort, as a buffer zone. This is my initial thought. Like 1-2 months ago, I think that the Russians might do, but then they surprised me by retreating. So because of that, they invalidated the entire theory, but they might, of course, come back again, because if you do not want to be a neighbor with a super anti-Russia state, so they might just plant a lot of People's Republic in between Ukraine and Russia, and Ukraine can do nothing about it in the future. So that's how I look at it. So Chernihiv and Sumy is in danger. Poltava is why I say Poltava is because I shared this screen. Share. So can you see the screen?
Yeah.
So you can see this Poltava. So if let's say Sumy and Chernihiv is
there it is, yeah.
So it's taken as a People's Republic because they don't want to have a border with Ukraine. Poltava, if they take it, it's because there's this river. So if they take this land and take every land north of this river, it will make it more easy to defend. And it makes it really very, very hard for the Ukrainians or any future army to actually penetrate and go into Russia. And this will be very good buffer zone. Then they probably will take the whole of Dnipro as well, might as well, because of the railway lines, make it shorter. So rather than they go around, they can actually, Kharkiv linked up. This is just my project. This must just my guess, but
Yeah. We'll find out.
and then they, of course, they
So-
will, of course, want to cut off the lifeline for Ukraine. They will take the ports, in Mykolaiv and Odessa. So Ukraine will become tiny, and then of course, then they will probably offer some attractive deal to Poland and all these countries to make them the evil guy to capture some of their old lands. And if they do, if they take the bait,
I don't believe it.
no, they will offer.
I tell you, I've been to Poland and Ukraine, especially Lviv. I've been to 4 times in my life, and I have some very good friends who are staying in bomb shelters all the time, especially during the beginning. Okay, they as you probably know, Western Ukraine, like Lviv, is Catholic. They're Greek Catholics. Okay, Poland's Catholic. But I tell you, there is no love lost between these two people. I mean, Poland's helping Ukrainians, but they don't particularly like Ukrainians.
Correct. It's not about the people. It's just the land. They will. The Russians will try. Of course, they will not take the bait. I don't think they will take the bait. But the Russians will try to entice them to make a mistake. And if the leader make a mistake, then there goes Poland as the NATO member, and the whole all hell will break loose in Europe. And although it's unlikely to happen, but stupider things have happened before. So but that is just a random possibility, because Poland has been overly active in this conflict, and they need to pay for all
they're paranoid. I mean, they're absolutely paranoid. I tell you, one of my daughters-in-law is Polish, from Krakow. So we had her and her father, who is Polish, at our house for dinner the other day. And you listen to them. I mean, of course, I kept my big mouth shut, because otherwise we will never talk to each other. But I mean, I tell you, they're. I mean, my daughter-in-law is not so crazy, but this one person's point of view, a pretty intelligent guy, is Putin is crazy. If he gets his way, he will take all of Ukraine, and right up next will be Poland. I mean, this is how they see. I mean, obviously he's reading whatever Polish newspaper he reads. So they are absolutely paranoid, which is why they're helping Ukrainians, not because they like the Ukrainians.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just just one last thing, because I have to go. But we haven't discussed the fate of Zelensky. What do you think will happen to Volodymyr Zelensky and to his government, realistically?
No,
I've got something to say real quick before anyone says anything serious. I was in Miami. I was in these little dog parks that are between all these high rises along the ocean, right? And I took a poll of these people walking their dogs. So they obviously lived in the apartments. They weren't driving in from another city to go walk their dogs in these tiny parks right in the ocean, right? And these are expensive high rises. And so many people had either Russian or Slavic accents, or not accents. They were speaking in Russian or Ukrainian or something. I met a Ukrainian colonel who was just a former retired Ukrainian colonel who was gambling at the casino every day, and he retired in Fort Lauderdale. And I was like, how? And he was married to a Russian, and he was on he had an iPod. Not an iPod, an iPad, and I said he must be concerned about the war. He must be on his iPad all the time looking up the war. And every time I walked by him looking on his iPad, he was playing a game or something. He was not interested in the war at all, because he had already. I mean, I'm just speculating, but one way that a Russian retired colonel could retire there is sell a few tanks or something like that, and all these weapons, they say we don't know where the weapons are, and there's reports that they're not getting to the front. Even in Kiev, a Western journalist was doing a live interview with these defenders of Kiev. a month or two ago when the Russians were at the gates, and the guy let slip. He goes, he was just talking spontaneously, and he let slip. Their artillery outnumbered us 10-1. Well, hold on a second. If you've got the troops to take over an area, 10-1 is destructive. With artillery. Now it's an artillery duel. So, but anyways, I just Miami. I don't know. That's where they go to retire. And he's got a house in Paris. It was not the Panama Papers, but the other ones. There were papers that divulged that Zelensky, his net worth is Forbes estimated at 20 million, I think, and he had secret money hidden, and he's got a house in Paris. So he's I think we'll see him in Miami or Paris. I mean, it's just the way that Ukraine goes. They're cynical. I mean, you can't. Yeah. I don't know. But
I don't think he can survive.
Anyways,
unfortunately, I just don't see how he can get out of Ukraine, unless United States send in the special forces, pull him out, and then he will be the president in exile for eternity. That could be possible. That may perhaps Ukraine have a revolt. They overthrew him, and then he became a government in exile. But then Ukraine become a totally different country. That could be possible.
An American actor, who's that? One American actor said he petitioned to give Zelensky a special Academy Award.
Yeah, I heard
at
that.
The last Academy Awards.
So irritating.
It didn't go through, but the idea is that Zelensky doesn't identify his self-worth by his political power. I think he identifies his self-worth as having a little bit of cash, but also being a celebrity. And he can do that again. He'll, at least for a few years, he'll have plenty of celebrity in the United States. He'll be invited to all the parties with all the movie stars in Hollywood. So he. But I think we agree that if he gets out of this alive, and he probably has an escape plan, and Scott Ritter says that he's got to live according to Russia because if he capitulates and doesn't have they're building him up. Russia wants him to have credibility. So when he capitulates, then it'll be official. They won't say, well, he wasn't our president, the Azov or whoever, the last holdouts, which there always is. There's always a last holdout battalion or something. And they won't say, well, he wasn't our president anyways, but if he has that authority, and so he's saved himself by having the authority, by building himself up.
It could be possible
but
that
I don't think he's going to stick around.
So
Ukraine.
maybe, right, the point where Ukraine might surrender might be the point where Zelensky had some reason to leave the country, and then when he's in a different country, then he signed an agreement with Russia so that he can run away to Miami, right?
He's snorting lines of coke on South Beach. He's the agreement papers are going to be stained with cocaine and whatever else, and Dom Perignon, whatever party they had the night before is going to stain the agreement papers. I don't know.
So, So it is a good point to kind of like keep track of whether he leave the country for whatever reason. For example, maybe G20. He says Zelensky is going to leave Ukraine for the G20 meeting, and then end up he flew to somewhere else and signed an agreement with Russia. That could be possible. And then Russia guarantees his security, to fly to USA. And if he's in Indonesia for G20, he will be on the Air Force One back with Biden all the way to United States. He don't even have to return to Ukraine. He could have signed the agreement in front of Putin, because Putin will be there in G20, and he can sign the agreement, and then that's it. And he can be his celebrity for life in USA.
Yeah, he'll be a celebrity he'll have more celebrity at least for a few years in the United States. than he did in Ukraine, even though he was making, I don't know how he made the 20 million, you know, but that's how Ukraine goes. You know, if you read the papers, if you scan the papers, Ukrainian criminals were the backbone of organized crime in Europe. They go down the list, the Foreign Office paper, I went down the list, it had a chapter on each type of crime and any type of sin you could think of. The Ukrainians were doing it in Europe. Human trafficking, murder for hire, drugs, guns. I mean, Europe is pretty much a safe, you know, they don't deal many guns there. The organized crime is there, but not, you know, it's not like, maybe not like the United States or definitely other countries, but somehow you get the idea that Ukraine is got its fingers in all of the tentacles in all of the organized crime in Europe.
Yeah.
That's where I got the idea.
And then these 3 months, we have everybody calling Slava Ukrainian, right?
Yeah, they switched. Yeah, somehow and the people that are pushing the whole thing are these, I call them neo-Nazis here, you know, because, you know, who's a Nazi? You know, it's just a hapless, it's a very hapless thing you go into if you don't have much else going on in your life. You know, Ukrainians are poor. They pretty much always were. I mean, since the fall of the Soviet Union, and they were. So you might have this puffery, this pride that you just generate just to keep your mind off of your state.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that someone said a teacher in Russia makes like between $200 and $400 a month, you know, and it's probably even worse in Ukraine. You know, they're even poorer than Russia. So, and now I mean, the two cities to look at is Odessa and Kharkiv. So the question is how that'll, you know, if the one thing is if Russia is doing as well as I think you and I kind of suspect, right? And I'm listening to Denis Davidoff. You know, I like to see the pro-Ukrainian side, the pro-Russian side, and then get an idea of where the truth is. The truth tends to stop at your map channel, by the way. But Denis Davidoff, you know, he's a Ukrainian. He's rooting for Ukraine. But the good thing about his is that he's not totally just blindly Ukrainian, pro-Ukrainian. He's realistic, and he says something's bad happening when something bad is happening. He doesn't take some retreat and say it's a strategic advance to the rear, you know, that type of thing. We used to say in the Army, you know, we didn't retreat, we did a strategic advance to the rear, and so you know, this bullshit that goes along with war. But so Denis Davidoff was the one who said 20 rounds for every one, and that was from the some sort of statement from the
so I saw this
military.
So I think this statement actually came from
you can't win with 20 to 1.
So what I read was that from the Russian sources is that there is this officer, he got interviewed by some media. So he was at this hotel, you know, meeting these media people, and then he talked about the reality of how they are outgunned and they are not winning, and maybe this you know 20 to 1 or 10 to 1 ratio came out from there, and then according to the Russian sources, he got arrested immediately by the SBU after the media went out to publish that. So he was arrested, and the fate of him is not sure. He got shadow banned.
Yeah. Another report that sounds interesting and sounds realistic, but I take everything with a grain of salt with this whole thing. What everyone says, all these people, including all the people that I trust, like Ray McGovern. You know who Ray McGovern is?
Not sure. I don't know so many people. Okay. All these new people, you know, some of the people that quote me, you know, they put in the comments, I was like, oh, I never knew these people existed.
Yeah. Ray McGovern was a 27-year CIA veteran, and he gave the presidential daily security briefing to 6 different presidents.
Wow. Okay.
And he was a Russian by the way, and before he started giving presidential briefings, he was a Russian expert. Speaks fluent Russian, white guy from New York. But he is one of the most, what I like about him, he's on RT sometimes. And he says the thing he likes about RT is that they never, unlike every other Western media outlet, they were the only ones who never pre-screened what he was going to say. They would just have him on.
Yes.
And if he wanted to say, and it would be live, and he would say whatever he wanted to. And then, and so that's, but he said even the BBC would ask, well, what is going to be your answer to this question? Yeah. We can't afford to have you say something unexpected.
Which is why I love RT.
And
I love to watch RT because they are so honest.
Yeah.
And it's honest to a fault that you start to think, how can they make truth propaganda? And they are able to do it because the West try to hide things, and the RT will just report all these things that they are trying to hide, and it become propaganda. But in fact that they are only reporting the truth, and that's the beauty of RT. I love RT, but in this war, RT is useless. There's nothing to watch.
Oh yeah.
I think they are forbidden to report about the war.
I did like RT. Yeah, I was getting snippets of truth through RT on stuff unrelated to Ukraine over the years. Ray McGovern being one, but Ray McGovern also had a time. He had a stream on YouTube where he and John Mearsheimer, the University of Chicago professor, who blames the West for. And he's a very University of Chicago, very highly regarded.
I know
professor.
I saw that very famous viral video he talked about Ukraine. I totally agree with him 100%.
What's that? Yeah.
The Mearsheimer, right?
You don't regret. You don't
totally
agree with Mearsheimer.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But Ray McGovern was with Mearsheimer. If you can find it on YouTube, maybe I can send you the link when I find it. But McGovern is great because McGovern had the time. He had the itemized timestamps. So one of the things he showed was on March 23rd of 2021. That's when Zelensky said publicly that we will take back Crimea by force if necessary. Well, would he say that without consulting the United States? And the next day, March 24th, 2021, is when Russia sent their first troops to the border region. So coincidence? So it was this needling, this constant instigation that if you look over it, it's easy to come to the conclusion that Ukraine was kind of encouraging Russia into war with them, and you have to assume that United States or whoever's behind it all, and Stephen Cohen mentions that there are these, for me, the reason I don't like the war is it's very likely that some neocons in the United States are behind it, and people that just don't like Russia. There was Bill Bradley, who was a senior politician. He said these Eastern European types in the White House, or he calls them Eastern European types, were had it in for Russia, and you can speculate on what he meant about who he meant about Eastern European types. George Soros supposedly was sour because his efforts in Russia itself didn't work, and now his organization in Ukraine was fully behind the Maidan insurrection and revolution. So you've got these You got these people who have it in for Russia, and that might be and they might be using the cover of, well, maybe we can use Russia against China somehow. They might be using that as a cover for their motivation. Their single-minded motivation to get Russia, no matter what. It's clear that once Putin got in power, even though he's kind of a dictator, it's clear that he got rid of the oligarchs who were fleecing the country. If you look I looked over their schemes years ago. I've been following this for years, but they had these schemes where they were building cars and pulling all the money offshore out of the country. And their economy was in the shitter. Their whole economy was shit until Putin. Now, I'm not saying that Putin's the best guy or Putin should be the guy now, but Putin constrained them.
He's actually the best guy for Russia.
Well, the Russians seem to think so. What was his approval rating before the war? It was still super high. It was over 50%.
It's still super high. So it got even higher from the super high.
Every month, every week, it goes up a few points. And someone said it was like 91% in a recent poll. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, that's crazy high. But no American politician or president ever gets approval rating, over that high.
So it's
over 60% or something. But the Russians, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe there is a grand plan, with this, but because people default to what everyone else is doing, right? The bandwagon. And you say, hey, if Europe's on board with this, Germany and everybody, if all these former generals are on board, U.S. generals are on board, well, there's something that I must be missing, right? I'm just going to go along with it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that once Russia is cut off from the gas, this is where my theory that the Ukrainian gas is key to it. That if you have enough gas in Ukraine, and even a third of their gas is enough to supply Europe. Trillions of cubic meters, and so, or a trillion cubic meters, or a couple trillion cubic meters, and then you look over these U.S. generals who are showing up as talking heads on the news programs and other places. The one guy I can't look anywhere and not see his face is General Keane, Keane. Well, in the Army, I always knew what a U.S. Army general was, not a Marine general. You don't see Marine generals. You see Army generals. Sometimes, and rarely, but sometimes Air Force generals. But it's always Army. And I always knew in the U.S. Army, I always knew this, that a U.S. Army general, not a Marine general, not an Air Force general, they are simply colonels that are selected because they will agree with the politics of whoever is it. And then sure enough, General Keane is he's posed as the founder and an idea behind the Institute for War Studies or something like that.
Oh,
and then I looked. You have it? You have the name?
So he's the chairman for for the Study of War. The one that always create all the maps and put on Twitter.
Yeah. Institute for the Study of War. But you look into the Institute for the Study of War. Oh, it was founded by a neocon woman who is the wife of the guy who runs the American Enterprise Institute. And so it's a couple of neocon, a family of neocons. And so it's controlled by them. They grab some general who can who will say what they want again.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of generals.
It's
there's
good money
over
anyway.
600 there's over 600 generals. What's that?
It's good money anyway.
I guess. I don't know what motivates them. I don't know what motivates them. But, but first of all, they're selected according to their ability to agree with with a politician. So now that might be transferable to an organization, any large organization, like a think tank, right? The Institute for the Study of War,
Sounds good.
But that's why I'll trust a Marine general way more than an Army general, and that's why Colonel McGregor, has a lot to say. Colonel McGregor was Trump's military advisor, and he wrote a book on the Gulf War. Hey, he was in the Gulf War, but he remained a colonel, which makes me trust him, right?
That means he did something right.
You got to see Colonel You got to. Yeah, he must have done something right to not be promoted. So, there's like 600 generals at any given time in the U.S. military, and hundreds of them are Army generals. So you can hunt and peck. You can pick out the one or two or five that'll do what you want. You just have to do. They're people just like anybody else, and there's a distribution. There's this natural distribution of personalities. Mm-hmm. Well, the ones with integrity, I'm getting cynical here, but the ones with real integrity may be the ones you never hear from, or they're retired somewhere or working quietly, with a different organization. Mm-hmm. But you can't necessarily trust that. And then so that's that. And then with Europe being on board, they're stuck. They are relying on the United States to formulate some sort of agreement or some sort of structure, whether it be a pipeline from Ukraine. I disagree with the price. I mean, I assume the price is much less because it's right there. You go right to Poland. You hook right into. They've already got a pipeline, a Russian pipeline. You could co-opt that and hook into that, and no matter what it costs, right? Dennis the guy who was there said, oh, it could cost 10, 15, $30 billion. What's 30 billion if at the price of gas?
Yeah.
These days, it's nothing.
Russia is earning that like
even
every
if
month
it's a fraction.
or more.
What's that? Yeah.
Russia is earning the I think if I'm not wrong, Russia's 1 month profit is more than the entire funding that they have given to Ukraine for the entire war so far.
You said 1 month profit?
Yeah. The gas profit from Russia.
Off of the increase in gas?
Yeah.
You mean the increase in profit from the rise in oil and gas prices?
Yes.
Yeah. The oil and gas was between $40 and $60 a barrel, right? And now it could go up to 200. It's going to stay for a long time over $100, right? Each dollar they export, at least they did. They exported 8 million barrels a day. So you do the math, right? They were exporting 8 million barrels. 8 million barrels. Even if they have to sell it, and they're selling it at the rate, it's not what the media says. From what I understand, it's a $13 discount. Mm-hmm. So let's say $15 discount. So if it's 100, if the price of oil was $60 a barrel, they get $40, over $40 in a day per barrel. So $40 times 8. So this is conservative math on this, by the way. Mm-hmm. So 320, is that $320 million a day? Well, first of all, the interesting thing I learned about the American military and things, the price of weapons is not the price of weapons.
Yeah.
They're not made out of, you're not conjuring them out of pure natural resources. It's a jobs program for your country. And it's a technology program for your country. Yeah. The amount of natural resources you put into a Kurzweil rocket or an artillery shell is nothing. It's nothing. Right? No. You've got it'd be different if you were Syria or these countries that have to import all of their weapons, right? It's all Russian labor. And they could use the labor, they could use the jobs right now. Mm-hmm. It's a circular, it just keeps people employed.
Yeah.
During the it allows them to create a war. And of course I knew right away something was suspicious about this. I mean, everything was suspicious about this conflict. I knew these weapons that they're importing from the United States. And then Ritter helped identify a lot of problems with them. The German tanks that are being sent, they're talking about sending some old ass tanks that I'm very familiar with, the Leopard 1. I'm very familiar with that tank. I was in the M68-3, which was a tank that was essentially identical to the Leopard 1. But they're not, I don't think they're sending the Leopard 1 yet. Leopard 1 is a shitty tank. M68-3 was a shitty tank, kind of, from just around 1970 or something like that. That was the technology. But and then the German tank that was being sent was not the Leopard 1. It was some anti-aircraft tank. And then Scott Ritter said, "Hey, I knew the German guys who manned those things," because he was in Germany, and he was in the Army also. So he goes, they hated those things. They broke down all the time because Germany over engineers their shit, and it breaks down all the time. You have to have a Porsche mechanic to keep them running, and I'm like, okay. Then I knew that this is a useless cause. Also, when they said, "Oh, we're going to send M113 armored personnel carriers from Vietnam," right? You know what an M113 is, right?
Yeah, I know. We have it
might
in
keep
Singapore.
an AK-47 off of you. Yeah, it's just you guys still have them, right?
We already obsoleted.
What's that?
We no longer use it.
You guys they're obsolete, right?
Yeah, we also don't use it anymore. We give it away for free.
Yeah. And we're giving it away, but we're giving it away for a price. We're tabulating all.
Yeah, you guys are better.
$40 billion. Oh, yeah, we got it all written down on a notebook. And where do you think we're going to get it? Ukraine only has gas left. That's where I get this from. That's where I came to the conclusion. I said, I make it a habit. Well, you got to check these different things, right? One of the things you do is follow the money. Say, well, what's Ukraine got? Oh, they got gas. They got a lot of gas. And then I read the quote where I read something from some reputable. It was years ago, and it was something saying, well, why hasn't Ukraine developed their gas? And it turned out, Russia had huge influence in Ukraine. This is prior to 2014, I guess, but they were kind of, and it didn't make sense because the pipelines were already built and didn't matter. They were just, you don't lose gas by pumping it. Once the pipeline's already built, and then so the gas stayed in the ground and it's just sitting there, but it's accessible. And it's not too far from Europe. It's right. Poland's right there. Yeah. They could hook right in. And that's I just like finding these things that no one's talking about, So that's all I could think. That's all I could think about with, why is there no dissent in Europe? Initially, Germany and France and all the other countries that liked that cheap Russian gas, that ran their electricity and their industry, right? Mercedes are going to cost more in the United States due to the gas issue. They said it was a dumb idea don't invade Ukraine. They said that to the United States. Well, that reversed once it happened. Once it happened, then the United States, this is just one theory, and I could be wrong. I assume that it's possible that the United States just came to them and said, guess what? This is our plan. You're now on board because you rely on this gas. You rely on gas, and Russia's not going to do it. But guess what? Where we can get it for cheap? Ukraine, because it's still in the ground there, because Russia never developed it. Russia was, let's face it, Russia was running Ukraine.
But the war
or had enough influence
the war
to
is
where
so
they
bad.
could, and Ukraine was totally corrupt. So,
and the war is not working enough for them.
What's that? For Ukraine or Russia or both? Ukraine,
Europe.
right?
For Europe.
Oh, for Europe.
Yeah, the war is bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think we blindsided Europe. I mean, we just, but they're stuck now. They have to do what the corporations want.
Yeah.
One of the things that China did was interesting. About within the last year or something, they had an aircraft carrier, and where they towed it, they painted it green, and they put it in the desert, and they used it for targeting practice, and it was a perfect duplicate of the U.S. aircraft carrier. It was indistinguishable. It wasn't a general aircraft carrier. It wasn't a general ship. Yeah. It was an exact duplicate that you could see from a satellite, and there were public photos of it being towed across the desert as a target. Well, targets are not done that way with cruise missiles and with anti-ship missiles. In the United States Navy, at least, the targets are shipping containers, just random hunks of metal. Mm-hmm. And you hit them because they're all very accurate. China's, they're all very accurate. So you just figure out, you don't make it a specific ship. Mm-hmm. But the reason for that was, in my mind, was that if you sink an aircraft carrier, it stops trade. It creates a war. That's grounds for war. The international community expects any conflict that sinks a ship smaller than an aircraft carrier to be retrievable. So anything smaller than an aircraft carrier is a retrievable conflict where you could stop it and rewind and come to peaceful terms. Aircraft carrier, no. So that China was saying, here's this. Well, that gets disseminated to American politicians, right? Every American politician probably saw a picture of that aircraft carrier, and it's a reminder that if there's a conflict, we may do this where it's irretrievable for trade. So the corporations that are also have their own intelligence services, and they're very, very aware of their supply chains to China and everything. They might go to the politicians and say, we can't afford to have an aircraft carrier go down because that ends any type of retrieval, any type of normalization of trade. So so my mind, and I could be wrong, is that the Chinese were sending a message to both politicians, American politicians and American corporations, that if there's a conflict, your trade's done. You're not going to get anything else out of us. Everything's done. All your supply chain, your company's done. Your career is done. Or a lot of your careers are done. All the guys who have parts being made in China for their stuff. That was just interesting, but it gets obtuse. I don't know if there's a good reason. I don't know if there's a good reason for us to be in this. There may be, but there's also reason to believe that somebody who just had it in for Russia, a group that just has it in for Russia, decided we were going to get into this, and the generals show up on media. We've got the Europeans trapped. It's just a very complex thing. I don't think we give a shit about Russia. They're aging out. They're not you said that they're going to be a world power. I can't imagine a country whose population is going to be under 100 million. They got some resources. They don't have any technology exports. They don't make any money. They're just kind of like barely relying on energy exports to subsistence this stuff.
And military
their
stuff.
Military is not there. Their military is. They have to act now if they're going to do anything.
Yeah.
And they did.
And the same thing goes for China as well. If they do not start any war anytime soon, the window of opportunity is going to close because the population is getting older. They are not going to afford a war very soon. In fact, their economy now is a little bit of struggling already. So as the population continue to age, it's going to get worse. And then they're going to pay more for welfare, and then they are not going to afford a war in 10 years' time or even 20 years' time. So it's now. So that's the danger, you see. I'm so worried.
Someone said that their population is only going to be, at the end of the century, their population is only going to be about 700 million, they expect. So 700 million is a digestible amount, for the United States to handle.
Yeah.
If they have double our population, which I expect our population to actually increase, by the end of the century, it's probably going to be 400 million or more, maybe 500 million. But it's going to be more parity, and I think that it's just a peer competitor.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting. I think if we could buy some time and wait them out. And Mearsheimer says, look, China, you should just be, you benefited from the trade so far with us. You fit well. You fit well with the trade. You're making money. Just accept the fact that the United States can't accept a peer competitor. And the United States doesn't want to take over any of your land or anything. Just go with it and keep on making money the way you were. And that'll be fine. But also understand the United States might try to, suppress you until they have a handle on you. They can't afford. I think Mearsheimer's point is the United States, unfortunately and realistically, can't afford anyone to even have the ability to challenge us. It's weird, right? Because but if you look at the charts, for GDP, which determines your military ability, right? It's all determined by GDP. If you look at the charts, China's was about to intersect the United States, and that's not good. And some people think that due to technology and biotechnology, one of the bigger pictures is that whoever controls the pace of the world or the ideals of the world at this juncture, meaning the next 70 years or so until the end of the century, is going to kind of guide it for good for quite a while. Because as genetic engineering, AI get more developed, and it's a curve, it's a technology curve. As that gets more developed, we're all going to be the same in a sense, but the start of that will be right now. Whoever controls the ideals, who do you want to control the core, the little grain that grows to dictate what we're doing? Well, a possibility, if China's running things, if they can throw their weight around and control things, then it might be China, right? Or it could continue to be the United States. Everyone who thinks about it says, well, I'd rather have the United States. I like the United States in general. We do some shitty things, but in general, it's led to an idea. It's led to it's led to people having more dynamic societies. I would say Singapore and Europe and you see it in a lot of countries. If they, if they're following the United States kind of lead, then things turn out more dynamic and more interesting. I mean, maybe I'm missing some economic realism there, where we use leverage, but yeah, my brother's a molecular biologist, so he says he talks about, he doesn't talk to me a lot about it, but he has mentioned a few things about how the genetic engineering is going to change people. And in fact, China understands that too. And China understands, but China's they're kind of like pathological. So they're like, we need this many resources. Where are we going to get it? This, and it's all at the last minute, and it's all very frenetic, and they throw a bunch of resources to grab what they need. So like in Africa, for example, where they can get the resources, they created a genetically engineered child. I think 2 of them, but they were HIV/AIDS resistant children. They changed the DNA. Did you know this?
I didn't
They're
know.
Chinese children.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but who has the problem with AIDS? Who has the problem with AIDS? Well, here's the twist. I follow this very closely because I can interpret some of it, and I run it by my brother. So my brother's at the top of bio. He's a PhD in molecular biology. Not only that, he's one of the top bioinformatics scientists, meaning he uses computers to pull data out of, or meaning out of the data, and he's done it at the top levels. So I can run things by him, and he'll correct me or something, or he'll look it up in PubMed. He'll get the paper, the papers that are done on these things. But so China creates these 2 HIV-resistant children, 1 or 2. Their identities are hidden, but it was known that they created them. They publicized it. Okay, who has the problems with HIV? Africa. Some of the countries are absolutely ravaged with it. 30% of some countries in Africa have HIV for various reasons that we won't talk about. But one of the other things is underdevelopment. China, one of the side effects of this genetic engineering that created these children with HIV resistance was higher intelligence.
No.
Is one of the side effects of it. It was the Chinese scientists that did this. Did it by consulting with American scientists, and these American scientists were interviewed by press afterward, and they described the communication. One of the guys said he talked to me about everything. He wanted to know everything about how to do it because it was CRISPR technology. It was American technology.
Yeah.
Ironically, created one of the scientists who created the CRISPR technology was a Chinese American scientist. Of course, not mainland China. Probably very well socialized as an American, right? But anyways, that's just a side point. So the Chinese Americans. But a different scientist he was contacting several scientists in the United States to get the information, and this is from what I read. He went over everything. The one thing he curiously did not go over was the higher intelligence. But it would have been known. It was well known. So he didn't ask about that. How do I do that? To make sure. So somehow he purposefully omitted anything about that. So I don't know if that means anything, but the Chinese are doing these things. It's very likely also that the Chinese assassinated 2 top generals, one Taiwanese, one Indian. General Rawat, R-A-W-A-T. Did you know about that? Do you know who General Rawat is?
No, not
He's
sure.
dead. Killed in a helicopter accident.
Okay.
Helicopters that don't go down. I think it was M17.
It's just recently, right?
Which is a newer version. What's that?
It's just recently, December 2021.
Yeah. Rawat was killed. Guess what? He was killed a few days before he was going to meet with Americans. I mean, literally like 4 days before he was going to meet with Americans, American general. There's a program in the Department of Defense that hooked Indian and American military, and we were giving technology to the Indians that were going to be used against the Chinese. Rawat was on our side being the American side.
Mm-hmm.
He was totally in bed with the Americans. Not in bed. I shouldn't say that. That sounds like he was corrupted. No, he just saw things our way. And we had a specific program to hand off technology transfers. Rawat mentions this in his talks. And they've been doing this for a while. Every 6 months they would meet, and the Indians, meaning Rawat, would give a request to the Americans for certain technologies, and they would transfer the technologies. That's very important. What that does is that eliminates the homegrown. Wait a second here. Okay, there we go. That eliminates what Rawat called. Okay, when you're making your own, if you do a technology transfer, it's expected. This is a lot to unpack, but I did a lot of research into it, and I need to do my own videos. But what Rawat did, or what Rawat was doing, was getting technology transfers, which are meant so your local defense industry create the weapons. That eliminates the weapons procurers who are getting weapons from Russia, right? Mm-hmm. And the weapons procurers, which would make money on the deals and siphon off a lot of the money, Rawat he said, we have 2.5 enemies. China being the first, primarily. Now, he put China above Pakistan. Pakistan being the second. The half is our weapons procurers who are siphoning off the money. They had an underdeveloped military.
Okay.
How do you get around that? I hook up with the United States. They start transferring technology. Well, technology transfers are useless unless you're going to build the weapons yourself. They were all set to build all these new weapons. Holy shit. You got India, which is going to have a larger, if it doesn't already, have a larger population, a greatly larger population. Now with building their own American technology, possibly even exporting it. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to take on Pakistan, China, whatever. But it's next level. Rawat is behind that. How did Rawat get behind that? He goes, well, he already established they had powerful weapons procurers. They're making billions of dollars off this. They got it in for him. I know that they must have it in for him. Well, how does he get around that? Rawat made himself the head of all military, which was a unique, never before position created by them. And the Indian press questioned, why do you have to have this new powerful position? It's absolutely unprecedented in India to have this guy who's ahead of everything. Well, I thought Rawat was a good guy, and he had India's, primarily India's, and he was moving to get this American technology, create their own homegrown, make India much more powerful. India was just straddled with this old Russian technology, and they had to pay a lot of money for it, and a lot of it was siphoned off. So he was, my understanding is killed. There's a video of the video I found of the actual crash. It was, you could only hear the crash. It was by some locals on a mountainside. You say, well, there's a mountainside and it was foggy, right? But no. The MI7, I think it's the MI7, M17.
Mm-hmm.
The M17 is an updated version of the Mi-8. The Mi-8, I'm very familiar with the Mi-8.
Mi-17.
I think I've even been in one. I don't think I flew in one. Yeah, the Mi-8's the old version of it. They look similar. The M17 has the upgraded, I know the GPS, they have a flight control system. And Rawat's was a special one. It was known which one he flew. It was absolutely decked out. The most experienced pilot, but you didn't have to be an experienced pilot. He was flying a known route. There was nothing new about the route. It was back and forth over this hill. I looked at the conditions. There's videos of that day from the conditions, from the crash. Very light fog. But again, you didn't have to. There's crash deterrent systems that let you know exactly where you are. There is a software that's downloaded to the helicopter. These planes, in short, M17s with that flight control, with that crash detection system in them, don't go down. In general, they just don't go down.
Mm-hmm.
If you got software that's downloaded to it, the software that's downloaded is a 3D terrain map it's of the all of the United States. But they had done that thing before, that travel before. Also, there was no mechanical failure determined. I looked over the actual. There's no mechanical failure, which is a major. When I looked over the most common helicopter causes of accidents, that crash didn't have any of them. There was no mechanical failure. Mechanical failure is a major thing when you have maintenance issues, right? You let maintenance lapse. There's no reason for that helicopter to go down. And it went down just a few days before he was going to meet with the United States. There was every motivation for these crooked weapons dealers, Indian weapons dealers. They'd, might have access. Rawat went down with coincidentally with his inner circle. It wasn't just him. It was him and his wife, but it was all of his top generals. So they chose the right flight, maybe, if you're choosing a flight. What pairs with this is there was an especially anti-CCP Taiwanese general who I can't remember his name, but I saw his picture. I can't remember his name offhand. He went down also, and he was especially vocal about being against the CCP. But so these guys are very motivated. They're not going to sit around regarding China, and I would say if I was the Chinese intelligence services, I would see Rawat as an existential threat because of the way he was moving. For several years, he had this program. He made himself the top head of to make sure he got the mission done, the mission to upgrade India's military to match China's. And he's indebted to the United States because they're giving him all this technology that's going to put India on top. We don't see India as a global threat or anything. They're not coming out. For some reason, we don't see India the same way we see China, right? We just don't see them as a problem. So but India is an awesome resource. There's only so many young Japanese men we can, work with, or Filipino young men that are around that are going to be in the military and make a effort, make a good deterrence. But there's kind of an unlimited amount of Indian young men, and as long as we arm them correctly, then China's in check. That's just another way to check China. But so very suspiciously, both of those guys went down in helicopter. The generals, how many generals die every year in helicopter accidents? Let alone those circumstances. I was checking all the circumstances. I even checked this guy who went over all of the reasons why helicopters go down. Is American, totally unrelated to military helicopters, actually, but the military helicopters are much more well maintained. The one that it wasn't spontaneous, meaning there was plenty of. That helicopter was specific to Rawat. It had very nice custom upholstery, nice stuff in it. I saw a picture inside the helicopter years before, or well before it crashed, when it crashed, also there was no maybe I'm going on about the crash, but there was no change in its motor and engine sound. There's no there was no it just slammed right in. It's just no mechanical issues. It didn't, and there was no effort. From the sound of the crash, because you could hear the sound of the motor of the helicopter, and it maintained a steady sound right until it crashed, which means that there was no deterrence. The pilot did not deter the crash, which he could have, I think. And there was not much left. There's the one aspect of helicopter crashes is that many people, they auto rotate. The survivability rate is enormous. I looked at all of the crashes, like in the Taiwanese military for that year or the year before, and the survivability rates were enormous. Like half of the people would survive, right? Who survived in Rawats? Who survived in the Taiwanese general's crash? Nobody. It's just all hands lost. But you auto rotate and you might break your legs, or somebody, might die, but people walk away from those almost all the time. Very few. There was over a period of like 2 or 3 years. Like I did it like 3. I think the Taiwanese guy was it was recently. It was 2020, 2021 or something. I don't know. The number of casualties was only like 15 or something in years. It was not people hot dog. People don't hot dog when they're transporting a general. They don't take risks when they're transporting a general. Hot dog. I've seen people hot dog. I've heard of people in the U.S. Army hot dogging. You're just asking to die or something, right? I was in a helicopter. The pilot, he was an old Vietnam vet, I think. This is a long time ago. He went absolutely sideways. The only way we were held in was this is an old Huey chopper. I'm surprised we didn't lose our guns or helmet. You packed your helmets away, or our caps or whatever we had. Surprised our guns didn't fall out. We were just holding. He goes to the side, and the only thing holding us in was a strap that we had buckled. So we could have easily flew out the side. But anyways, he's just you get these guys. Those things happen all the time, right? The guy's pushing it to the limit. There's just no reason to believe that 2 generals. There's only 2 generals in the world that were a threat to China. And they died right at the right time, right when right after COVID, right after. Some people have speculation about Fort Detrick and we were setting up China for COVID, with COVID, or that during the military games in China, there was U.S. Army chemical officers in China for the games, and that they were bike riders, and that they had the opportunity to spread the virus on their bikes or something. They could smuggle it in. And who knows what the reality is? But that comes back to the United States not allowing a peer competitor. And Mearsheimer's point, I think, is look, the United States is going to be relentless if they see that, if they have made it determined. The United States' job is not to destroy China. Why, if China can be, that's why the United States is putting on a pedestal and supporting as much as they can these Chinese cultures, Hong Kong, Taiwan, the Chinese, the now growing number of Chinese that are showing up in Vancouver, Manhattan, the Bay Area in the United States. They're showing up. They got the homes. They're moving the money. They're $1 trillion a year for the last 10 years has been being moved offshore illegally, according to Chinese law. You can only move like 15,000, but they're moving the money through the casinos and other ways, but it's definitely clear that they're moving the money out. And then there was a poll, I don't know if it's true, but it's truthful, that 70% of Chinese millionaires have some sort of plan or are determined to move their families and, of course, their money out of China once the communists kind of came back. Once that structure started to come back. I don't know how many years ago it's been, but they started to come back. To maintain control, and Xi Jinping is using that vehicle. So, but there's all this money. There was a show, all these. That's why Manhattan real estate skyrocketed. And then someone was doing a local story about San Jose, which is the Bay Area, which is San Francisco, Silicon Valley, right? Apple and all, Google and all that. And the houses are just unbelievably expensive, right? They're $1 million a piece. $1.5 billion, by the way, is the average. I don't know how a city can have an average price of $1.5 million for a house. So but these a large city, San Francisco, has $1.5 million. But what it is a lot of that's Chinese money. They were in San Francisco. And they said, look at this little ranch house, it's over $1 million. It's a tiny house, and no one's lived in it for a year or two, ever since some corporation bought it or some, something that would hide the identity of the buyer. Well, the hidden identity is pretty clear. Oh, they said it was a Chinese, they said it was a Chinese buyer or something like that. Or they track some of these back. The United States doesn't want to publicize it. They love the investment. They love the idea that there's going to be this expat community of Chinese who they don't hate, but they don't like the way China's moving. They'd rather see China like Taiwan, So you've got them all showing up. They're raising the prices in Canada and Vancouver, Canada, way off the board. There's tons of Chinese there. They've grabbed their place. When you own real estate in the United States, it's secure, especially in an expensive area. And then the reason they do it in Manhattan is that Manhattan traditionally has had the most secure real estate prices, like steady. Like there's no collapse of Manhattan, New York, Manhattan. That's the wealthy island, of course. There's no collapse. There's no variation over time in that. It goes up. It generally just slowly goes up. Now it's gone up quite a bit it's all empty. A lot of empty apartments, a lot of empty $5 million high-rise apartments that are all waiting for their Chinese families to show up someday.
It's COVID now.
They're doing it through the casinos. What's that?
It's COVID. They locked down the entire border.
What? What about Vietnam?
They don't allow them to leave.
Oh, they don't allow the Chinese to leave. You said?
Yeah.
On the Thai border?
On the China border.
Yeah, I mean they're not gonna on the China border.
Yeah. They are using
The-
COVID-19 as the excuse to keep everyone in China at this moment. It's not so easy to get out of China
Oh,
at
I
this
see.
moment.
You mean
Especially you see Shanghai, they locked
people are
down the
trying to
entire
sneak
Shanghai.
across the border or something?
Sorry?
People are trying to sneak across these borders now somehow.
Not
that it?
really. I mean, it's not so
Or they
easy
were?
to. I mean, for those that are not under the the target list of the CCP, they can easily revoke your passport. It's not so easy to get out of country if the CCP don't want you to get out of the country. So especially now is sensitive times. China seems to be preparing for war. We're not sure what's happening. They locked down the entire of Shanghai for very bad reasons. So I'm not sure what's happening now.
Yeah. United States is just trying to hold China off. And I don't know, Mearsheimer talks to people in China. He's got friends in all these places and he talks to them and they seem to understand him and respect him. But his point to China is just
Give up.
Yeah, well, give up because it's not too bad to give up in this case. That's his point.
Yeah.
China is. Oh, by the way, my phone has got 10% on it, but
so let's wrap it up.
One of the things to research. One of the reasons for the I would say possibly the primary reason for the South China Sea atolls is nodules. Have you ever heard of nodules in the ocean?
Nodules, not sure.
Rare metal nodules. They grow through sediment over time, and they're concentrated rare metals. And they have all these important metals in them, including nickel, which is probably the most important element for EV, for lithium batteries, is nickel. That's the big shortage. The concentration of rare minerals, and there's nickel and what's the other one? I feel like saying there's another element that's very important besides nickel, and they have to be harvested and processed to get the nickel and the other stuff out of these nodules. The nodules in the South China Sea have double the concentration of rare metals than the nodules in the rest of the ocean. So at a certain point, the first years that these nodules will be processed for their metals, the processing will be inefficient. So the first ones that will be able to be processed at a profit or in a practical manner will only be the South China Sea nodules. The nodules stretch. We've got them from Hawaii to mainland U.S. And you see photos all along the bed. Well, tests were done of these nodules by scientific universities, and the governments, and they pick them up. You can see them. They test them. The nodules are everything for South China Sea, and the 200-mile thing, that's going to be contested. China's going to say, we get our 200 miles just like the Falklands do.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an atoll. They bullshit about the history of these things. It's a 900-year history. I don't know how long the history is.
It's just some bullshit.
To
it's
say
just
that they have
rubbish.
ownership of the 9 dash. Yeah, the 9 dash line, right? The 9 dash line, and no one's buying it, right? And the Philippines are like, well, we want our nodules, so they put a dozen of their Marines in shorts and t-shirts on the on a ship, on an old ship that can't float on one of their atoll, right? Their little atoll, and the Chinese harass them all the time so they can't get food and water resupplied, even though they are getting resupplied. But the Philippines are like, well, we want one, you know, we're desperate, but they know someone must have told them, all these people, and the importance of these nodules, not the importance, but the chemical, the mineral makeup, the metal and mineral makeup of them were known as far back as the late 80s when they discovered them and processed them and tested them. Well, no one thought that nickel, no one was thinking about EV cars at that point.
Mm-hmm. But
now listen to Google Elon Musk nickel, and you'll hear some quotes. And he say, we're going to have a shortage of nickel. If Tesla was to make 20 million cars, and as the stock price would have dictated, they'd have to make like 20 million EVs. Of course, lithium batteries, these batteries that use nickel are used in all kinds of things, not just cars. But if they were going to make 20 million cars a year, then they would use 1/3 of the world's, I think 1/3 or 1/2, maybe 1/3 of the world's nickel supply every year. Well, I don't know if the world has that. So, they got it on the bottom of the ocean. The bottom of the ocean's everything. You know, Britain, after the Falklands, you know, that's how we control Britain. But Britain, we like Britain. It's culturally similar. They have Cambridge University. They pop out some smart ideas, but they got no resources, man.
Yeah.
After the fall of their, you know, so the Falklands, they knew back then that the future was going to be the ocean floor, and the Falklands offered that. You know, it was the Argentinians have a claim to that just as much as the British do, except the British did have some people there, you know, but these offshore platforms were before Falklands. Falklands were early 80s. Is it 80 or 84? Something like 82. I'm not sure which. But the offshore platforms were prior to that. And they knew that they were going to be able to tap. And they knew that 200 mile circular, that's 3 times, that's untouched. And sure, that's 3 times, that's double the area of Great Britain. That's a huge amount of area. You have 1 inch of sand in the ocean that you can claim. According to international law, you have the size of Great Britain to mine, and it's all untouched.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, and as we're seeing with these nodules, before everyone was thinking, well, oil and gas, or oil, right? And then gas kind of got important. Well, gas also. Well, what about gold? Yeah, well, gold too. Maybe there's copper down there or something, right? Somewhere. Yeah, okay, well, some other minerals. Oh, shit, now everyone's into EVs and electric vehicles are the future. Oh, well, and nickel is the key to that. Oh, shit, these things have like 2 or 3% of nickel in each one. And they're all over. There's photos of these nodules on the ocean floor. It's wild. It's just a bunch of rocks, and they're all kind of evenly spaced, not almost evenly spaced. These little rocks, and you don't think about how they got there. They're just sediment over. It takes millions of years. Once they're collected, they're done. You can still get quite a bit of. You could still get the minerals out of the sediment, the sand that surrounds them. You know, which is there's an endless supply of that. There's almost an endless supply of these nodules, but the only ones that matter for the first few years, I assume the first few years at first of the harvesting will be the South China Sea.
Interesting.
And it's going to cost a lot of energy. You got to take the nodule from 3,000 meters or however deep they are. They're at deep levels. You got to go down and you have to bring them all the way up to a ship, crush them, process them, and then you've got to come out, and it's got to be profitable. So it could cost quite a bit of money at first, but as the price of nickel goes up, which it already is, also, Africa has these rare minerals, that, lithium and mines and things like that they got to get at. That China, if they're going to maintain their power, I don't know. It's as I uncover this stuff, I got the time to uncover it, thank God. But as I uncover it, it kind of comes together. Like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Okay, now I know why they're spending so much money on these stupid atolls. They're spending probably billions of, I don't know, they got to maintain a few hundred troops there. They're putting stuff there. It's not cheap. Mm-hmm. It's not cheap. And it doesn't make necessarily military sense. We say they're unsinkable aircraft carrier. Oh, no, you know exactly where they are. They're not moving.
Yeah.
And so you can just launch a few missiles and wipe them out.
Correct.
So it doesn't, militarily, a few cruise missiles, a few Kinzels, and everyone's got those. Yeah. A few cruise missiles and they're done. So you're like, well, what's the point? Oh, okay. That's why, it kind of comes together. It kind of irritates me to not know, because there's been enough times in my life when I didn't know about something and I accepted it, and then I felt stupid later when someone explained it to me. It's like, I was a soldier during the first Gulf War, 92, and was it 91, 92, and it was after. Yeah, no, it was 91, I guess. But I was a soldier during that. I was like, we gotta stop Saddam Hussein. Someone explained to me the oil deal, and then Ray McGovern has a speaking freely talk. It's about an hour-long talk. It's called Speaking Freely. It's a series of influential speakers. The two talks of Speaking Freely that you should watch is Ray McGovern's, who describes how the CIA developed incorrectly and then got to the point where they were manipulated into creating the Gulf War. And he's the 27-year-old CIA veteran, and then the other one is John Confessions of an Economic Hitman guy. Have you ever heard of that book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman?
I heard it before. Not sure who is it.
Yeah, it's John Perkins. I feel like saying Perkins. I'm not sure if I got his name right.
John Perkins.
But what's his name?
John Perkins.
John Perkins?
Yeah.
Yeah. I communicated with him.
Ah.
And he said, interesting. I had some information for him that I can't repeat that I got, I don't know any, I just piece it together myself, and then people will hint at things. People will hint at things, or like my dad might say something about the Vietnam War, and I could and it's a lot of speculation on my part. I might be wrong in these things. So I have to unwind it and then figure it out for myself.
You can actually not unwind it across many. You can unwind it across many conversations with me, and maybe you can build your own YouTube channel, and then I can also have content, and then I can bring traffic towards your side.
Yeah, I need to. I got to sell my house here, and then I'm free. Then I'm off.
Yeah, because you got so much story. You got so much things. You got so much things to share.
I got some stories I got a couple stories that'll absolutely. I told you the one about the sniper guy, the SBS sniper. SBS is the Special Boat Service, which is the Navy SEALs of Britain. So they see a lot of action. Britain doesn't have the size, the number of British Marines is like 8,000, and the number of U.S. Marines is like 200,000, and the number of SAS operators is like a few hundred. I don't know whether it's 200 or 800, but you get the idea. It's not much. 200 maybe.
Should be on the
but
lower
the
side.
number of Navy SEALs is like a couple thousand, and then that doesn't even include all the other weird special forces guys. But I came in contact over time. I'd come in contact with in Tucson, Arizona was an odd place. In Tucson, Arizona, which is near the Mexican border, that was an odd place while I was in the Army, meaning there was a lot of special operations, secret stuff that would go, and the CIA ran its. The CIA ran a airline, or they had a relationship to an airline that was used. The CIA would fly people out of Tucson International Airport, and the reserve office was right next to the Army Reserve Office, which is a 2-story building. It's right next to the airport, right next to the airport in a residential neighborhood, almost. And it was just sitting there, there was a 15-man Green Beret unit that you had to get. And I was in there. I saw it was right there, and it was a very top secret unit. It was called the Chemical Unit, but it was only 15 guys, and they had their own armory. And I was in their armory once. I was in their armory and it looked just like a movie. They had every weapon you could imagine and ammunition, which no one ever puts ammunition in a armory. They keep them separate, unless you're going to go fucking to war. But during the time I was in 86 to 92 in a reserve unit at Fort Huachuca, which is the military intelligence. Now it's the military intelligence training facility, but they also operate a lot of telecommunications out of there. It's not next to the Mexican border. It's isolated. They have blimps and shit that go out of there. A lot of it's to monitor the border. But you could fly right out of Tucson International right through Mexico straight down to South America and get stuff done. And I've heard some insane stories but they did a lot of crazy shit. That's during the 86 to 92. That was still the Cold War. So we were very worried about Russia still getting a foothold. And now not Russia, but the Soviet Union, the communists, the communists are now getting another crazy foothold in South America. I spent a lot of time in Peru, South America. I've been there 12 times. And the last time I was there, and the time before, I think, but the last time I was there was March, and I went to a communist rally and an anti-communist rally. The anti-communist rally came first. The communists are awful. They're just they're given they just run countries into the ground, But what they did is my understanding from the people I spoke to in Peru, and I have beers with them, the anti-communists, who are just small business owners and professionals. And the communists are bussed in to give an to give a counter. During COVID, a guy named Castillo was elected in Peru, and he was communist sympathizer. The guy who controls him was educated in Cuba, and it all comes from Cuba, from what I understand. And the anti-communists, and it's in the background. Not many people show up to these, to these protests on either side, but it's there. And Lima's a huge city, like over 8 million people. I think someone even said 10 million now, but I don't know. But it's over 8 million. It's one of the largest cities in South America. But not many people are showing up to these. But the guys guiding the country, Castillo, and most notably the guy who was educated in Cuba, who's controlling him. And it turns out, I said, well, where do they get the funding? They got to house these people who are the counter protesters. They got to pay for them. They pay them to live, to sit there and drink beer all day in their apartment, in the hotels. They put them in hotels all over Lima, and then they ship them in. And the reason I found this out is I said, look, it was 5 p.m. and the anti-communists were coming in and out, of the protests over hours. People don't have all day to protest. It's not a big deal anyway. They're just protesting. It's not at the start of a revolution yet, but they're coming in and out. Oh, I got 1% on my phone. I'm going to go out. It's called in Cuba set up a poison pill when they knew that they were going to fall. My phone might go out any moment now, by the way. And okay. I don't think I can charge it without disconnecting. But the poison pill was the Sao Paulo organization, the Sao Paulo, I think it's Sao Paulo. And they wanted to create a Frankenstein zombie independent organization that would stay alive and hibernate and wait until the times were right to pop up again in wherever they could. And they are. These leftists are showing up in Chile, in Peru. It all comes from Cuba, and Cuba might not even have much. They created it when they knew the Soviet Union was falling, and all of their support was going to go away. The writing was on the wall. They had time to do it. They said, "We're going to save the revolution. We're going to create this organization," and they created it pretty well. It hibernated. It was not there for the most part. South America's capitalist. But it popped up. COVID was one reason it could pop up, and because Castillo gave him a story. Everyone was out of work in Peru, especially. They were out of work. Their economy was suffering. They didn't have anything to lose. My friend's sisters voted for Castillo because they said, "I got nothing to lose. We don't make much money anyways. How much worse can it get?" Well, it can get worse. Peru was doing better every year I went there. They had some corruption.
And he's gone. He has ran out of battery. And that's it for today's open mic. 3-hour over session. Very long. I also logged out. And look forward to the number 2. I have no idea how to edit this video. This is so long. But look forward to the second open mic from DPA, Defense Politics Asia. And have fun.